Dan, Jason, Lori, Jarrell. Okay.
Ready.
All right, we're good to go.
Oh, nice.
Yep, I think,
I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting for the Village of Tinley Park to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move on to taking the roll call. Lori, can you please take a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Present.
Commissioner Gatto. Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Manny.
Present.
Commissioner Merrick.
here.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Here.
Commissioner West. Chairman Gray.
Present. Okay, we do have a quorum. We'll move on to communications. Staff, are there any communications to present at this time?
Nope.
Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2023 regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Sepisi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 1 on today's agenda. Item 1 is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Cassie Bino on behalf of Tinley Bowl a special use for a substantial deviation of the Hickory Creek Business Center for the development of a concessions building and athletic courts at 7601 183rd Street. Site plan and architectural approval is also being considered at the meeting. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Manny. All those in favor of opening the public hearing say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. I have received notification of the public hearing being published in the local newspaper. Anyone from the public can speak on this matter after they're sworn in, but after the presentation. So staff, if you could proceed with your presentation.
Sure. Sorry. What, oh. Okay. So this is a special use permit for a substantial deviation to a PUD, and then site plan and architectural improvement. The property is located at the southwest corner of 183rd Street and 76th Avenue. It is currently in the ORI district, but it is also within planned unit development. It's the Hickory Creek Business Center. They're requesting to intensify the use, add floor space, so it has to go through the special use process to amend a PUD. In terms of surrounding uses, it's in a light industrial area such as the ORI is meant to be, and then it is just south of the former mental health center. The overall site plan for Tinley Bowl, what they're doing is, nothing's changing on the bowling alley, but there is a small concession stand outside a separate structure that they are going to tear down and replace with a new structure. So right now, it's just kind of like a shed and has a very basic bar and a place to grab some food if you ordered it. But for the most part, they are going to build a new building. It's going to have a more expansive seating area inside, a better bar, and then a new patio as well. They're also removing the old horseshoes outside and adding new volleyball courts. So they're really just expanding the volleyball courts. That doesn't really need the special use, but the new building does. So the overall site plan is above. The beanbag are staying where they're at, and the original volleyball pit is staying where it's at. They're just adding 2 more courts to the south. As part of their submission, they actually agreed to add some landscaping to the site. Currently, right now, there's a few trees on site, but no parking landscaping, no parkway trees or anything like that. So since they're redeveloping the site, they offered to add some landscaping to the site to beautify the site. And it doesn't meet our landscape ordinance. It technically doesn't need to, but they provided some extra parkway trees, some site plan, some plantings near the main parking lot, and then buffering their athletic courts. This is the building that they're constructing. Like I said, they're gonna tear down the existing concession stand, and this is gonna be new. It's gonna have restrooms with it. It's gonna be 100% masonry. It meets the village's standards for required masonry. And, yeah, and then it's also, I believe those are garage doors that'll come up for inside, outside when it's nice out for a seating area. They did, in their plans, show some signage. It's conceptual in nature. That is not the signage that's gonna be on there. They're not requesting any variances or anything like that. They're gonna have to, if they wanna put signs up or anything like that, it'll just have to meet our code. And they're totally okay with that. Any proposed lighting is still gonna be within our, compliant with our provisions in our code. So for the most part, that is it. It's pretty quick, since they're just expanding and adding floor space. This is why it needs these requests. So the petitioner is here, or actually Cassie's not here, but her project manager, Bob, is here if you have any extra questions.
Okay. Bob, do you want to come up and give a presentation or speak at this time?
Unless you have any questions for me.
Okay. Well, stand by. If we have questions, we'll have to swear you in, but, okay, thank you. We'll begin with Commissioner Hamilton.
No questions.
Commissioner Manny.
No question, but just a comment, like to see that, you're expanding the business and, making it, fun for the Tinley residents.
Okay, excellent. Commissioner Gaskin.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Merrick.
So I guess my major question would be around the parking. That's a space where the parking is heavy already in both the lots, people parking in front and in back of that. And I'm just wondering if the expansion here of the larger building will lead to any parking issues. I don't claim that there are any right now, but it's often pretty full.
Staff doesn't see any issue with adding the courts that's gonna create a large amount of traffic or extra parking that isn't already provided. In general, they're overparked already according to our code.
Okay.
If a situation arose where it became a problem, we could definitely go to them to talk about possible solutions to that. But at this time, with just adding a court, and then the building itself technically isn't really housing more people, it's just to add bathrooms and a couple additional seats.
And they do have extra land, so
Right.
to the south of this is where they're putting the courts. There's additional land. So if there is an issue, there's not really nearby parking areas, so they're probably gonna wanna expand it anyways. And I know, the owner had brought that up, is if there is any issues, they can always come in for a permit for that.
Thanks. Yeah, there's a vacant lot right to the south.
Mhm.
Yep, and it's part of the same one, so they own that.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sepisi.
Nothing except that I think it's an excellent location. It looks like a pretty good plan. I think it's gonna be a real successful venture.
Okay. Yeah, I too think it looks good. It's an upgrade from what's there existing. I do like the fact that even though it's not necessary, the petitioner is adding some landscaping, especially across or along 183rd Street. And I like the fact that the building is gonna have doors that can open up. We saw with COVID, that became kind of a wanted type of feature with some of these buildings. So, and there's no variances, no new, all the signs meet the code, so I concur. I think it's a good project. With that said, is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item? No? Okay. At this time, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Sepisi, seconded by Commissioner Manning. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. At this time, staff, do you want to present standards, or?
Yeah, so for the most part, just to keep it quick, the standards are up on the screen, they're in your packets. They're a recommendation from staff that overall this request meets the standards for special use.
Okay, thank you, Jason. At this time, could I have a motion then? Motion number one, for the special use for substantial deviation?
Make a motion to recommend the village board grant a special use permit for the substantial deviation to the Hickory Creek Business Center, PUD, to allow the construction of accessory building and athletic courts to the petitioner, Cassie Beno of Tinley Park, or Tinley Bowl, at 7601 183rd Street in the ORI PD Industrial District. Hickory Creek Business Center, zoning district, in accordance with the plan submitted, and adopt the findings of fact as proposed in the October 19, 2023 staff report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Lori, could I have a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. Now can I have a motion number 2 regarding the site plan and architectural approval?
I'd like to make a second motion to grant the site plan architectural approval to the petitioner, Cassie Beno of Tinley Bowl, to allow for the construction of an accessory building, addition and athletic courts at 7601 183rd Street in accordance with the plans submitted, and adopt the findings of fact as proposed in the October 19th, 2023 staff report, subject to the following conditions. A, the petitioner must submit evidence to the village of the petitioner's application, if necessary, to the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways to install required parkway trees prior to the issuance of any building permit.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Hamilton, seconded by Commissioner Sepisi. Could I have a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. So this item will go to the village board on November 7th. So please get with your client to, and get with staff on the information to attend. Thank you and good luck. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. We'll move on to item number 2 on tonight's agenda. Item 2 is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Iftikhar Syed of Tinley Park Properties LLC, doing business as Splish Splash Car Wash, a special use for an automobile car wash and a variation from section 3.H.2, permitted encroachments in required yards, commercial zoning district driveways of the zoning code. The petitioner is requesting that the special use and variation to permit site improvements to convert an existing non-conforming manual bay car wash to an automated tunnel car wash at 7130 171st Street in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District. Site plan and plat approvals will also be considered at this meeting. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Manny. All those in favor of opening the public hearing say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. I have received certification of the public hearing notice being published in the local newspaper. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak, but after the staff's presentation. Staff, please proceed with your presentation.
The petitioner is requesting a special use permit, a variation for driveway width, site plan architectural approval, and 2 plats, plat of cross-access easement and plat of dedication to the village for right-of-way. The project is located at 7130, just east of Harlem on 171st Street, as you can see noted on the maps. The zoning is B3, General Business and Commercial. The site is the former Montego Bay Car Wash. So that is an existing manual bay car wash that has been out of operation for some time. So there is a new owner for the property, and they wish to convert that, keeping the building, but making some additions and changing the drive path, curb cuts, etc. So the use will, as far as staffing, have 2 employees on site. There will also be a manager. These individuals will help monitor the traffic flow, assist with pay stations, be able to keep the traffic moving. The building on site is a two-story building, so that will be modified to accommodate the tunnel, along with the associated mechanical, electric. There's a small utility sink in there, and the upper story is for storage and more mechanical equipment. The petitioner has noted in their narrative that they do have previous experience with car wash operations, as well as renovations and new construction. So this use as a car wash, not attached to a service station, is technically not a prohibited, or not a permitted use. It is technically prohibited in the B3 zoning district. However, section 6 of our zoning code allows that a non-conforming use may be permitted to a special use by granting of a special use permit, provided that it is not detrimental to the village and provides a service to the residents of the village. Secondly, for the variation, is one variation being sought for curb cut width. Our code requires a maximum of 30 feet, and the proposal is for 41.3. And this has been noted with an auto turn analysis to facilitate fire truck access. Village engineering staff has taken a look and does concur with the request for the variation. So for site plan, you can see up in the screen on the left is the as-built demo plan that the petitioner provided, and on the right is the proposed civil plan. So there will be removal and relocation of certain site elements, hardscaping, light poles, transformers, trash enclosure, etc., relocating a fire hydrant, gas meters. The two building additions, there are two building additions. One is to be on the west side, where you can see shaded in a light gray, and the other is on the south side. So this will facilitate to allow for the automated tunnel's mechanical equipment and sufficient length for the tunnel. Also, importantly, the site currently has 2 curb cuts, so by modifying the site slightly, they will reduce it to 1 curb cut. So you can see that noted in blue on the lower right. And other thing to note with the site is they are providing permeable pavers to help with stormwater. So that is shaded in a dark gray. So you can see that on the right is access going up into the car wash, and on the left there's a bypass lane. That would be going southbound. That curb cut is about 240 feet from Harlem. There was a traffic study provided, so that analysis was included in the packet. As far as routing through the site, so I've rotated this so north is to the left. So you enter in 2 ways through the curb cut, which would be on your right. Then they proceed north, which is left. There is a 2-way drive aisle. Vacuum stations are located on the left side, so vehicles by 2-way, they can enter or exit for the vacuum cleaning. And then 3 pay stations. The tunnel is then shown in bright orange, and if need be to use a bypass lane, that's also provided. Trash enclosure is located towards the end of the bypass. And there are 3 employee stalls with a cross-access easement that you can see shaded, as well as the plat of dedication shaded. So the plats, here's a blow-up showing the 2 of them. So the cross-access easement is proposed as an opportunity to connect to the adjacent commercial properties to the east and west. Also, there is proposed the dedication for a public street to the village right-of-way. This was recorded long ago in 1989 with the county, but the village does not have any resolution or approval records of this. So village engineering is reviewing these 2 plats that were provided to us. As far as landscaping, the petitioner has made efforts to maximize the amount of landscaping within the limited site constraints to what the site is proposed as. So as I mentioned, there are 3 pay stations that are on the east side of the site. So there is a narrow 1-foot strip of landscape buffer yard on the east side. So that is one of the handful of waivers that are being requested. Importantly, they've made efforts to, as I said, maximize the landscaping to what they could. They are proposing to provide 4-inch caliper canopy trees. Our code only requires 2.5-inch. There's also a vacuum motor and transformer on site, so those, as well as those 3 south parking spaces, are all screened. So the waivers, as I said, is for the buffer yard on the east, as well as canopy trees, understory shrubs, and there's somewhat slight deficiencies with it. As you can see, they've provided ample plantings to the north and south. Parkway trees, parking square foot, landscaping for parking square footage are also waivers, as well as that screening to the east. So there's a recommended condition to keep the petitioner to the 4-inch caliper for the canopy trees. For architecture, the building, as far as its massing, is really not changing terribly much. The height will go up a foot. There are the 2 additions. So what you see here is the line drawing and the color elevation of what would be the front to the 171st Street. And the rest of the architecture really is not much changing as far as the footprint. The manual bays on the car wash will be closed off with windows or brick, and the existing roof will be reshingled with asphalt shingles, and the new additions will have a metal roofing. Also, there is a 3-station station canopies that will be on the northeast of the site. So there'll be individual ones for each of the 3. The petitioners confirmed that they will meet code, the minimum 5-foot setback to the property line. Here's some of the other elevations. As far as materials, as I noted, the building has not much that's changing as far as the footprint, really. It's just a handful of these material revisions that will be occurring. So the building is brick. The petitioner has just notified me just before this meeting that they had thought that the building was painted, that the brick was painted, but it is actually not. So they will be working with the rest of their team to provide a finalized material of new brick to match the existing brick. So what you can see on the snapshot up there is like an off-white brick, some options they were looking at. The petitioners also provided a third option here. So the building's existing brick, just to clarify, is off-white, and for these areas that they will be adding brick with the additions and closing off part of the car wash bays, they'll be matching that. So staff's recommended a condition that all final colors materials will be subject to staff approval at permitting, and the brick must match. As far as signage, so there's a non-conforming pole sign that's along 171st. At the previous Plan Commission workshop, this was discussed with the commission. The commission did not have an objection to putting any further restrictions on it. So by code, the sign can be retained and refaced, no structural changes. So you can see the image of what it looks like here. So they could, as long as they don't touch the structure, they can reface it for the new business name. 3 wall signs are proposed. There's also some pay station canopy signage, which is noted as for reference purposes only. Staff provided review to them to note that one issue is to not have any roof signs. So petitioners confirmed that they will not be seeking any variations for these. They'll need to meet code otherwise, and signage will be approved in permitting. So this would be conceptual. As far as parking and stacking, so this was also raised at the workshop. The petitioner noted as far as the length of time to go through the tunnel, it's about a minute. That could be accelerated if they're busy. So the stacking itself is 9 between the pay stations and the vacuums, and 10 between the pay stations and the tunnels. As far as the maximum amount that they could queue to stay on site, that would be 33 vehicles. So 19, when they're at 19, they're not blocking any of the vacuum stalls. So that staff reviewed this, and this all came as an analysis from a traffic study. So we do not see an issue with this. The employee parking, as I noted before, is the 3 southwest stalls. So we have a recommended condition stating that if they are to be removed, then they would need to relocate them in the main row. For lighting, at the workshop, the 3 types of lighting were discussed in that workshop staff report. One of the types was 2 wall pack fixtures. That was type B on the photometric lighting schedule. So the commissioners had concern for glare. Our code does say that wall packs are discouraged. So out of the concern for physical glare to the eyes, they wanted the petitioner to come back, something different. So the petitioner's proposing to have the same appearance, the same look of a light fixture that would be for the light poles on those 2 type B fixtures. So they are on the east side of the building. They do not front 171st Street directly. Also, they noted as they look further into the pay station canopy that they may need lighting under there. If so, they will make sure that they comply with code. That concludes staff presentation. I have petitioner representatives here in the audience.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything to add at this time? And what is your name, sir?
My name is John Shees, and I represent the developer.
Okay, John, I'm going to swear you in. John, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. My name is John Shees. I happen to be an architect. I am here as a consultant for the approval process. The architect is here as well as the civil engineer, a representative for the property owner and operator, Mr. Sayen. But Mr. Mubarak, he couldn't be here today because of a medical emergency. But Mr. Mubarak, his business associate, is here to answer questions, part of ownership. And as I mentioned, the civil engineer and architect are both here. I drafted the responses to the addendum and the variance, so if there's any questions around that, I'd be happy to answer. But Lori's done a really good job of presenting the development. I don't think I need to go into that. So if there are questions now or dynamic questions, we're here to answer them. I would note that there were 2 items that came up on the first meeting last time, the wall packs and the traffic flow through the facility. I think we've answered those successfully and look forward to your questions.
Okay. Thanks, John. We'll go to the commission for any comments, beginning with Commissioner Sepisi.
I'm amazed that you're gonna be able to put this much stuff on that size property, but you've done it efficiently. So far, so good.
Okay. Commissioner Merrick.
Well, I want to thank you folks for responding to the issues we had earlier. So I'm happy to see that, and I've gone by there recently. It looks pretty dilapidated, so I think it's going to be great to see it refurbished. So thank you.
Commissioner Gaskell.
I have nothing to say.
Commissioner Manny.
Again, what you're proposing is nice.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yep, I'm also happy to see the area getting refurbished and brought back into use.
Okay, I do have a couple comments. I do think it looks good. It's a total upgrade to what's there now. One of my questions, I saw in the staff report, it mentioned that like stacking would be 19 deep. and if it gets busier, they have the opportunity to stack 33. Could you explain, and I understand the petitioner has like 25, 30 years of experience in the business, but could you shed a little light on that? I just want to get some clarification on that.
Yes, so there's been a range of discussion around that, both at staff level and internally. So there will be two assistants
Okay.
on site, and that will manage the process. The tunnel has a certain rate that averages about a minute
Okay.
from start to finish. If the queuing starts to back up and become an issue with folks at the vacuums, then that process can be speeded up, and that's where you get the additional cars in the queuing beyond what you see as queuing are stationary cars, right?
Right, right.
And so as as the tunnel moves faster, that will address that
Okay.
issue. There is also the escape lane in case the tunnel malfunctions, so the queuing, again, would not be static.
Okay, fair enough. The only reason I brought that up was my concern was that's a major road. You're approaching Harlem, you don't need traffic spilling out into there. So as long as you're able to, in real time, the managers speed up the process and you have that overflow lane, as long as they're able to be aware of that, because the last thing you want to do is have a parking lot in the middle of the road.
That is supported by the traffic report.
Yeah, I read the KLOA report. I just wanted to,
Sure.
like I said, I understand the petitioner has a lot of experience. I just wanted to hear for myself. So that was the only major question I had. I appreciate the samples being brought in, and it does look like an upgrade to the site. With that said, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? Please approach.
My name's Janet Gallagher. I have nothing
Is it
against
Janet?
them doing this.
Could you sign in, Janet, please? Thank you. I'll
I
swear you
just
in
have
then.
A
Once you,
question or two.
oh, sure. Janet, I'm going to swear you in. Janet, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, but it's really not evidence, it's just,
Fair enough, but please proceed. Thank you.
okay. My concern is, when you're pulling out of the Jewel as it is horrible when you're trying to go left to go to Harlem, and it can even be hard pulling out to go right. So if you're gonna have this traffic now coming across the street again, because it's almost right across from the Jewel parking lot, how, when they say they're gonna help direct traffic, if there's a lot of traffic, what are they going to do to alleviate the trouble with people trying to get out of the grocery store, and then now you have all these cars coming out of the car wash? Is it possible, coming out of the car wash, that you make them go to Harlem, where they can't, cross both ways? That, so coming out of the car wash, they would have to turn right, and then they could always go around the block if they needed to go east, like to the next corner.
Janet, I believe staff is chomping at the bit to respond. Go ahead, Lori.
There will be a no left turn sign,
Okay,
so as they're exiting, they can only turn
and
right.
then my other question, behind the car wash to the north,
Mhm.
are there homes or anything that this is gonna impact on that end, or is it just vacant lot or a creek or
That is a B3 general business commercial zoning,
behind?
behind, yes.
So
So there's no homes that's gonna affect the property value of anything?
It's
to
pretty
any
far.
resident?
Eventually you get to, there's townhomes, but there's a creek, there's empty land, a creek, and then there's.
So there would be no
condos.
impact of noise or something on any residents who live there?
It's
Okay,
pretty,
that's
it's pretty
all I-
far away there.
That's all I wanted to address.
And it is a right-in, like Lori said, it is a right-in, right-out there. Can't guarantee somebody won't try and make the left. That happens in a lot
And
of
then our
places.
good officers here could come and forward and drive by that freeway stop sign and see how many people go through there. Okay. That was my only question.
Actually, I just have one last comment, is I know the staff report originally mentioned that they might try to connect the properties to the west and east. I thought they were gonna try to connect to the Peter Francis Geraci, like, law firm building there, but I just see the 3 parking lots. Is that, on the civil drawing, is that,
So we can't force that property right now to connect.
Correct.
But that's what this is here for, is this will allow for that connection.
And it'll be through
The
that.
access at that site is the worst on this. It comes out at a weird angle. It's
Yeah.
really close to the intersection. Eventually, that may come in for redevelopment. I kind of hope so
Right.
at some point, and then we can kind of make that connection happen.
right?
So this is setting it up so it's possible for that cross-access. That reduces the number of curb cuts, reduces the number of people making those kind of odd turns
Right.
out.
I concur. I think it's good to kind of put that infrastructure, so to speak, in there for future. So, okay, that just clarified that up too. With that, is there any other comments from anybody? Okay, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Sepisi, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is made. The public hearing for item 2 is closed. And if we can go to the standards, Lori?
I have the standards up on screen. These are the standards that are, as noted in the staff report, they are in support of the requests for the special use and variation. So, those are special use and those are variation. We also have standards for site plan architectural approval, which do not require responses. I have motion up on screen.
Okay, can I get a motion, number 1 out of 4, regarding the special use permit at this time?
Yes, I'd like,
Chairman? Oh, no,
sure, okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the village board grant a special use permit to the petitioner, Iftikhar Sayed of Tinley Park Properties LLC, to permit an automobile car wash at 1730 171st Street in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District in accordance with the plans submitted and listed herein, and adopt the findings of fact as proposed in the October 19th, 2023 staff report, subject to the following conditions. Approval is subject to final engineering plan review and approval. Approval is subject to the approval of the plat of cross-access easement and plat of dedication of right-of-way by the village board, and recording of the plat of cross-access easement with the county recorder of deeds prior to issuance of a building permit. Proposed signage, including but not limited to wall signs on building and canopy, are not approved with the zoning entitlement and will require code compliance or future variation request and approval. The existing non-conforming pole ground sign may be maintained and refaced per sign code provisions. If the 3 southwest parking stalls are removed to utilize the cross-access easement in the future, then 3 southern stalls in the main row shall be for the 3 employees.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Hamilton, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Manning.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion 1 is carried. We'll move on to motion number 2 regarding the variation. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the village board grant petitioner, Iftikhar Sayed of Tinley Park Properties LLC, a variation from section 3.H.2 permitted encroachment in required yards, commercial zoning district driveways of the zoning ordinance to increase the property's maximum curb cut width from 30 feet to 41 3/10 feet, in accordance with the plans submitted and listed therein, and adopt the findings of fact as proposed in the October 19th, 2023 staff report.
Do I hear a second? Okay, motion made by Commissioner Sepisi, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Could I get a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Manning.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. May I have a motion number 3 regarding the site plan and architectural approval.
And if anybody would like, you can just reference that the conditions in the staff report and on the screen instead of reading them all. Might help expedite it.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the petitioner, Iftikhar Syed of Tinley Park Properties LLC, site plan and an architectural approval to permit building and site improvements to convert an existing non-conforming manual bay car wash to an automated tunnel car wash on the property located at 7130 171st Street in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein and subject to the conditions noted in the staff report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Hamilton, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Could I get a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes?
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion 3 is carried. Now may I have motion 4 regarding the plat of cross-access easement.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant approval for the, for the petitioner, Iftikhar Syed of Tinley Park Properties LLC, plat of cross-access easement for the property located at 7130 West 171st Street, dated October 10th, 2023, subject to the conditions that the plat is subject to final review and approval by the engineer and village attorney prior to recording.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Sepisi. Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hampton.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion 4 is carried as well. This item will go to the village board.
Pardon,
Oh,
Chair? There's one more motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't have that in my notes. The staff report only had the 4. Okay, go ahead to the 5th motion. Can I get a
Mr.
5th
Chairman,
motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the village board grant approval for the petitioner, Iftikhar Syed of Tinley Park Properties LLC, plat of dedication for public street to the village for the property located at 7130 West 171st Street, dated May 16th, 1989, subject to the condition that the plat is subject to final review and approval by the village engineer and village attorney.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Sepisi, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sepisi.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion 5 is carried. Now we'll go to this item will go to the village board November 7th, 2023. So John, you and your client can get with staff on how to attend, and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the third item on tonight's agenda. Item 3 is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant West Point Builders Incorporated on behalf of Tinley Park Main Street LLC a special use final plat of subdivision, plat of vacation, rezoning, and variations for the mixed-use development West Point at Harmony Square. A text amendment to the zoning ordinance is also proposed to facilitate the development by relocating a segment of the street-level commercial required designation in the Legacy Downtown Core Regulating Plan. The project includes a 5-story mixed-use building on North Street with commercial space on the first floor and 63 residential units located above. Additionally, the development includes 63 townhome units at the former site of Central Middle School. Site plan and final plat approval are also being considered at the meeting. May I have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
So move.
I heard a motion made by Commissioner Merrick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Manny. All those in favor of reopening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. The public hearing is open. I do have certification of the public hearing notice being published in the local newspaper. Before we get on to the presentation, I do want to say to the public here that today is your opportunity to be heard. But there's some protocols. Be respectful be concise. The commission would prefer not to limit people's time. We don't want to put limits of, you got 2 minutes to speak or 3 minutes. So in that, please be concise. And if you've come up in a previous public hearing and spoke, you're on record. We have you on record. You're already on record for the public hearing. So please allow others to have their chance to speak and be heard. And then once again, on the protocols, to be heard, that's not shouting from the back row. That's not speaking from your seats. Line up in an orderly fashion, wait your term, sign your name in, state your name, I'll swear you in, and then you'll be heard on public record officially. So please be respectful of this forum, and we thank you for your time. With that said, staff, can you make your presentation?
Yeah, as you stated, this is a continuation of the public hearing that originally happened on September 7th. So there was well over 2 hours of public hearing there. Coming out of that hearing, the Plan Commission kind of recommended we continue it. The petitioner go back, take in what they heard at that hearing, and revise the plans accordingly with what they had heard. So in that time, they've been working over the last month. It takes some time to update plans and kind of go through it. So they've worked to that point today, over the last month to update the plans. I'm gonna give kind of an overall review here, but I'm not gonna go into as much detail as we did on September 7th. So that's still, again, this is the same public hearing. But understanding there might be new people in the audience or new people watching, I wanna at least give an overview of what the project is. But again, there's more information on that September 7th meeting that we really kind of dove into on that initial one. Overall, here's just a rendering of kind of where we're headed on the multi-use building. And then below that is the townhomes, a rendering of the townhomes, just to give you an idea of kind of where this is headed in the two parts of it. The multi-use building with commercial on the first floor and dwelling units above it, of course, 5-story mixed-use building, and then 3-story townhomes. Here's a picture of kind of what the zoning is. On the far left, kind of shows you it's really a mix of 2 zoning districts here. Where the mixed-use building is on North Street is Downtown 4, which is kind of our main downtown district. It's really trying to promote kind of commercial on the first floor, a little bit of density around the train station to really have that transit-oriented development that really allows for the success of a downtown, where you can get the type of commercial uses you want, and a little bit of residential density there to kind of help support those uses. Then to the north of that is where there's 173rd Street, and then the former Central Middle School site that's there as well. And that's under the Downtown General zoning district. Here there's also kind of a map of what kind of existing land uses are that surround that, kind of a mix of land uses there, including townhomes, parking lot, commercial, and then where Harmony Square Plaza for the village is planned. And here's just some renderings. It'll actually be coming up in some future public meetings here with where we're kind of going with the plaza. The buildings in the rendering are just that. They're just kind of renderings and not what's actually being proposed yet. But this gives you an idea of kind of what's right next to this is really driving some of what they're proposing here, including turning the commercial towards the plaza rather than having it be on North Street. From the uses and the site plan perspective, really the north part of this is really just townhomes. There's 16 total townhome structures. On this, we have it's a 63 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom townhomes. With the updated rendering, that's actually, number has gone down to 60. The original publishing was for 63, which is what they proposed, but we'll get into kind of what the changes are in this. But overall, reduce the main changes were reducing it to 60 units, and then adding parking behind all of the townhomes. So I'll dive into that a little bit more later too, but they went from the 120 interior units to the townhomes to now 240 total, so 4 per unit of the townhomes. For the mixed-use building, then you have there's commercial space, amenities, the office space for the apartments above it, package handling, as well as parking on that first floor of the multi-use building. The second floor, through unit 5, has 63 residential units on it. And then the second floor has a few amenity decks, the one facing the plaza to the west, and then one in the back that's more of kind of a lounge area for the residents of that building. As part of this, they are re-subdividing the lot, so 173rd Street, the portion between these two is being vacated. There's a pretty long history of that being the plan here. Some of its economics in that either of these sites or really North Street by itself is tough to redevelop. It's not a very big site. So these two sites have always kind of been tied together, at least over the last 2 decades, of saying, if you're gonna redevelop one, we kind of want them interconnected here. And that really is to kind of help with the economics of doing a redevelopment of this magnitude. So there's the plat of vacation for that portion of the roadway, and then the subdivision that would break this into 2 lots for the mixed-use building and the townhome building. Here's the layout for the mixed-use building, the first floor, which shows where there's commercial, where there's amenities. Those are both kind of facing the plaza, and then where the parking garage is on the first floor for interior parking. And then the second floor shows you where the rooftop terraces are and the rooftop patios that'll allow for some nice views to the plaza when there's events there, as well as a lounge area, again, at back. They do have pretty detailed plans already for those areas, including what you can see here with kind of planters on the roof, green space, fire table, lounge area, barbecue grills, things like that out there. There's also a patio on the north side of that building on the first floor. One change that they had made, really even from the workshop to the last public hearing, was locating a dumpster enclosure out there. There was some concerns about trash related to specifically to the restaurant and commercial spaces, and kind of concern that the interior space they had designated for it wouldn't be enough. So they do have the dumpster enclosure that'll be out there that'll give some additional space. And then reconfigured the access to that parking garage as well to be off of North Street now instead of inside that parking lot. Here is the architecture of the mixed-use building. This is kind of the front of it, which is facing the plaza and Oak Park Avenue. And then you have the North Street elevation, which is facing south towards the train station. That's one where, again, we kind of went into it. It was one of our more difficult elevations to really make work. It's on North Street where we want it to be a nice walkable, it looks at the train station, and you're gonna have pedestrians walking past it. So it was really, but it's tough because you have the parking garage behind it. So it was really, how do we make that work? So there are some faux windows and space there that there could be signage for public events. There's the awnings and things like that that carry from the first floor over to this North Street elevation, so that way you kind of get that same feel as the front elevation. It still feels like a commercial frontage, even though it's parking garage behind it. And then the same thing to the other elevations where they kind of worked in kind of those faux glass windows where they could, in the glazing, to help create a nice appearance on that first floor instead of just a solid wall. The carports came up in discussion, particularly over in the last meeting. I think everybody was in agreement to basically nix the carport. So they did remove those from the plans, and I think that was the direction from Planning Commission as well. So those are off. The townhome architecture here, it's a mix kind of between a modern and traditional kind of townhome, row home, or kind of a brownstone. So it's got that traditional kind of look, walkout appearance, row home appearance, but then there's a mix of materials in there to make it feel a little brighter and a little more modern rather than doing complete brick over the entire thing. The side elevations is where they've enhanced those On the site plan layout, you'll see along 67th Avenue is where there's where the sides of these kind of front 67th Avenue, they've treated those and created an appearance that's a little more like the front elevations of this, adding additional things like roof dormers, different materials, the door and kind of the entrance ways to these, treat them like they're kind of a frontage there, so. Here's the materials for kind of what they're proposing to do out there. We have sample boards as well here. One of the keys that I think they can maybe get into what their plan is, particularly with the townhomes, is trying to mix up the material types. So the exact material colors, the exact material style changes, so that the overall design is about the same, but it's there to help create a development that isn't 16 buildings that look exactly the same. And they actually have a plan of kind of where those will all lay out, so that way you don't get the same building next to the same building's outlook. And I think they can probably touch on that a little bit more. Signage-wise, they've requested just a few variances for these. One is the development sign for Harmony Square on two sides of the building that would face North Street and west towards the plaza. This really wasn't anticipated in our code, but it has become the norm. The Boulevard kind of has their similar sign, and then even if you go to other communities, particularly suburban communities, but also in Chicago, it seems to be the norm to say you kind of want to brand your building a little bit. So they try to tie that in without doing the large projecting sign that the Boulevard had. They still wanted to be able to brand it and somebody know where the Harmony Square or the West Point building was at. So they have that, and then they've tied in some other ground signage as well for the townhome entrance, and then for the dog park signage as well. Overall, the private resident park was removed to make space for the parking, so that signage isn't there anymore. Just going back to the site plan, so again, the biggest changes here were with the townhome portion of it, where you now have twice as much parking as the previous proposal, 4 per unit for the townhomes, and then that did result in that park being removed, but they still were able to create kind of a green corridor between those buildings. So there is still a nice walkout on the buildings where that park was at. Overall, they added one additional curb cut just because of how that laid out on that 67th Avenue. So that is essentially the one change in the request, is that they're now adding an additional curb cut on that street. It was kind of over in the last meeting too, the on-street designs for these, so the parking, the parkway, that's all conceptual in these plans, and it's really being driven by our Public Works and Engineering Department on how those final layouts will be. So all of the on-street parking for this is still conceptual, and it's conditioned in these plans as well that they'll have to meet whatever the final design layout is by the village. And that there will tie into the kind of the rest of the area. But they did take a stab at kind of saying, here's what it could look like, but again, isn't a final design. And then lastly, I just want to go over kind of what the requests are here today. So the public hearing requests that are before you. And this is what you guys are voting on. And I'll say that for the public, if you have a comment, I think it'll be helpful for the commission if you know, here's the request I'm kind of talking about with this question, this comment, or the information they're providing, because at the end of the day, the commission's got to provide a recommendation based on certain facts that they're hearing here today on these requests. So it's helpful, it's not a requirement, but it's helpful if you can kind of relate the evidence being provided to what the request is. So again, one of those is the request for the zoning text amendment. That's essentially moving the required commercial from North Street to the plaza frontage. That'll be the 67th Court extension. That was really a request by the village, really to help try and activate that plaza space. I think they could certainly have it on North Street, but we'd kind of rather have that activation of it front the plaza. and just kind of understanding how public plazas work, you kind of want them activated on at least 3 sides. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. The other one is to rezone to the downtown core. This is the area that's being vacated on 173rd Road, and then a portion that kind of fronts North Street there. So that's just being rezoned to downtown core, which is the same zoning as what North Street and where the plaza is now. The special use here is really to add the accessory structures to that first floor where there will be required commercial. Traditionally, that's required for that entire frontage, and then it allows for you to put some of the amenities down there, but that's where the special use is. Very specifically in that special use, there's an asterisk that even says the frontage needs to look, basically be in line with the commercial frontage and kind of mirror it. So they've done that with that use, and that's right around 50% of the frontage they're asking to be residential amenities as opposed to commercial. And then there's the 9 variations they're requesting. One of them is to reduce the 5 studio apartments to 705 square feet instead of 800 square feet. The second one is to permit 24 required residential parking spaces to not be within the footprint of the mixed-use building, and that's where they have the parking lot to the back of it. Another variation is for them, allow them to set back floors 2 through 5, 24 feet, instead of having those floors pulled up to really the building frontage. They've stepped it back there to kind of create the patios and the appearance that they're looking for in the front. There's the variation for reduction of where 60% of all street frontage facades on a commercial building need to have transparent windows. So that's obviously with the parking garage there. We kind of got competing parts of the code where they want you to put the parking on the inside, but then they want transparent windows. It can make that very difficult to meet, so that's why they've requested that variation, but then tried to kind of alter that or counter it as much as they can and still create a windowed appearance down there, but not having people want to look into a parking garage. The variation number 5 is for signage. Really 5, 6, and 7 are all signage variations. Nothing major on there, but the small tweaks to basically allow the signs to be a little more visible on a building of this scale or development of the scale. Number 8 permits the commercial depth to be 45 feet instead of 50, and that's really, I think they went over it at the public hearing, really driven from just the site constraints that are out there and how much width they have to work with. That extra 5 feet would essentially eliminate more parking on the first floor. And then they've been able to maximize it, kind of change what they were originally proposing on the first floor to at least get it to 45 feet. And then the 9th one is those curb cut access points that are along 67th Avenue and North Street. Typically, we only allow 1 curb cut. Here they have a couple extra that really allow for the proper site circulation for both fire, emergency vehicles, as well as just regular vehicles going in and out of the townhome development. And then the parking lot with the mixed-use building. So there's those 9 variations, the special use, the rezoning, and then the zoning code text amendment are the 4 requests as part of the public hearing. So that's all I have. Again, just mostly, I'll leave it to them to, they have a short presentation as well to kind of go over the changes they've worked through.
Okay, thank you, Dan. At this time, if the petitioner would like to come up. And if you can state your name for the record.
Pat Curran.
And Pat, do you swear or affirm that the evidence that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the commission and especially staff, Dan and his team, for working with us. You're going to trust me with this, that's scary. Work with us to help make the plan better, and I'd like to thank you for allowing us the time to do that. So it was, I just wanted to hit a couple main points because Dan did a great job going through this. But just wanted to touch base on that we did revise the plan based on what we heard. You know, what we were hearing was, you know, parking in the townhome area was a concern. The traffic flow was a concern. We think we helped address that a bit as well. The parking, we now are over 4 spaces per unit, 248 parking spaces in the townhome area assigned to the townhome. So off-street parking that's there. In addition to that, around our site, there's 19 parking spaces that are there. And as this graph shows, the current 2 lanes that we have passing there, what we're proposing to do, and obviously this is contingent on engineering approval, but is to have the parking on our side of the street encroach into our property setback there so that we keep that same traffic flow available in the street going, that people that would be parking on the street would really be parking kind of what would be your normal parkway trees and stuff like that, that will recess the parking into there and allow that from there. The other thing was, we heard you loud and clear about the carports. Remove them, as we said that day, that we remove them if you wanted that to go along. And then last, there was a talk about the look of the community and about another out-of-state builder who's building over off of LaGrange Road and how theirs look and ours was gonna look like that. And I guess I just mentioned to the commission, we built here before. We built West Point Meadows up at 185th and Oak Park Avenue. And we're very proud of that community. 25 years later, we're still very proud of it. Went through it. I go through it a lot of times when I'm out here just to drive through and see how nice it's looking. But I guess we'd like to be judged on how we actually build our communities and not how some person from out of state builds their communities in another town. So with that, at the end, when everything's done, if the commission has any more questions, we would be happy to answer it. We have our land planner and architect here with us to answer any questions. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I appreciate it.
And Chairman, that kind of jogged my memory, so I apologize, I did leave out, there was a traffic analysis.
Oh, yeah,
complete.
please go ahead.
So there was a traffic analysis completed by KLOA out here that basically looked at from a traffic perspective, can the roads out there basically accommodate this? And the answer that was put in with the packet as well, that basically the summary of that is there is capacity in those existing roads.
Yeah, but there's other places that are even finished.
Excuse me, sir, we're not gonna talk out of turn. When it's time for public comment, you can stand up in an orderly fashion, and then you'll be officially heard on the public record. Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so that was KLOA's analysis and the outcome of basically saying, looking at with 173rd Street closed as well, kind of where traffic would go, and can the existing roadways handle that traffic?
Okay.
So just that jogged my memory, that was in with the packet and updated as well.
And from what, Pat, you mentioned, you're not gonna affect the traffic, you're gonna be having the parkway on your side of the property, so it won't affect the roads as is.
Correct.
That's
And
my
not-
understanding.
And that's not included in our 248 parking areas. Those are actually inside enclosed.
Yeah.
But so that if anyone came over and wanted to park on the street, we're kind of moving them over to the side so it wouldn't impact the traffic flow.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I just wanted to get that clarified. Okay, with that said, I will go to my commissioners for any comments. We'll start with Commissioner Sepisi.
I've got nothing at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Merrick.
Yeah, so I guess, so I was here for the much earlier one and then viewed the other one on TV for the one that I missed. So I'm interested in the on-street parking, which came up a while ago. That's, even though it's gonna be on your setback, that's public parking?
Yes.
So, because this Harmony Square is gonna draw a lot of folks into the public space, that's the whole point, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Gaskell.
I have a question of Dan to start with. Has this always been part of the original Harmony Square plan?
I guess,
The residential area, I mean.
yeah, so townhomes have always been part of the village's plan for that area. And some form of townhomes there have kind of always been the plan. And
From the
same
beginning.
with the multi-story building on North Street. So at least for the last 20 years, that's kind of been what's always been in some form or another proposed there.
20 years, huh? Okay. And then, here he goes.
Any other comments, Jim?
Yeah, okay, that's good.
And we can always revisit if,
Yeah.
with that said, Commissioner Hamilton, any comments?
No, it looks like the petitioners have made a good faith effort to respond to all the comments that were made previously.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Manny?
Following up with Commissioner Gaskell's comment, was the density, we were looking for high density in that area as well?
Yeah, I mean, the legacy code and the legacy plan that kind of envisioned this when they did a full traffic analysis and parking analysis, actually looked at higher density than this and actually permits it here. So the North Street property is actually permitted up to like 7 stories, and then the Central Middle School site's actually allowed up to 5. So it was actually looking to add some density around that train station, again, kind of with what transit-oriented development principles are and trying to support the overall commercial that the village wanted to see down there. And really pushing the commercial towards that center and then building up some residential around it to help support it. So that plan's been in place since at least 2011, and that was really where they took a step back to say, well, how do we want to see this transform? What needs to change out there?
Right, so was there any conversations with the village when the Citizen Advisory Committee was established?
That predates me.
Well, yeah,
so,
yeah, it does, you
yeah.
know, but, you know.
There
I
was
just
a
wonder
full
where-
committee for the legacy plan, though. That was
Right,
a
yeah,
public
because I was
one.
part of that committee,
Yeah.
and our discussion was, you know, how we're gonna relook at the rezoning, you know, permitting, you know, what, you know, the focal point would be the train station, how many square, and how, you know, so we provided, you know, our thoughts how it should be, but I was just wondering, did that ever, you know,
I know they made some changes
was
to it
applied
before
or
me.
thought of, discussed at the village?
I'll say this, I've been coming to these prior to being on this side of the table for over 20 years. And I remember when Amy Connolly was here, they had this whole plan where it was gonna be dense in downtown Tinley Park, with buildings getting higher and taller as you get there. And it was supposed to generate walking and businesses. So that's been a long time coming. Now, is that plan that was 20 years ago, 15 years, does that stay the same? No. It's a fluid situation. Leadership changes, the public changes, right? People move in, move out, trends change. COVID changed a lot of things. So there always has been, at least the last 20 years, when I've been coming here for other reasons with the general public. And I came to some of those meetings. I saw the mock-up. It had styrofoam with white buildings getting bigger as you got to Tinley Park. Did that get built? There was gonna be a movie theater. Did that get built? No. Things do stall as time moves on. Maybe things are meant in good faith, but they don't always get built. But that's then. I think we need to stay in the present. I don't know what leadership said 20 years ago, but I think we got to stay in the present. So do you have any other comments, Commissioner Manning?
No, yeah, you know, I'm referencing, you know, things that happened in 2017, not 20 years ago, but, you know, I just feel, you know, the discussions we had at that committee, you know, where did that land? You know?
Yeah, I know they made some changes to the overall plans, and then a lot of those have gone into some of the feedback we've given, like if a developer's coming in to look at something that I think is some of the feedback you see here, that they weren't going to go to 7 stories on that building, they weren't gonna go to 5 on the townhomes. I think that a lot of the feedback that came out of that to say, we want something maybe not quite that was there. And so that's kind of what's gone into these plans and the feedback we're able to provide developers when they come in. So it wasn't unnoticed, because I think that type of feedback has carried on. When you get somebody that owns a property or a developer comes in, they're looking for, okay, what does the community want to see here? So we're able to pass that along.
All right, no, just,
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Manny, for your comments. With that said, I have a few comments too. I do want to give some kudos to the design team coming back and redesigning based on public comments. I was out of town, but I also watched the live stream. And I also know that around the ballpark and the VFW, there's some issues. So making it 4 parking spots per unit, I think that's a very good, I know you lose green space on that, but I think it's a very good way to keep traffic off of these roads. So I do appreciate that. I think that is a very critical point to your redesign. And so I'm glad that people came out to voice concerns on that. But I'm even more glad that you guys responded to those comments. I agree with you, the overall, nobody wants to look like the 171st buildings. So I appreciate you explicitly saying that, because that's not something we don't want to have some carbon copy. But I could tell you guys got different designs, so I appreciate you also clarifying that. Because when you go around town, it's easy to identify no-nos, right? Like the Starbucks parking that goes out into Harlem at 159th Street, those buildings on 171st Street, so you can point out no-nos. With that said, some of the things, I'm glad you guys also responded and removed the carports. I see those down south all the time. In the winter weather, I don't know how those would have held up, but I appreciate you guys listening and responding. It is a weird-shaped parcel, as Dan mentioned, so I know it's not necessarily, oh, there was a school there, there's going to be a similar building put there. I know there's some challenges because of the unique property. I take 173rd Street, I take that road to my work every day. That's going to be vacated, okay? I'm okay with that. I'll find another route. It's not going to take any time off my commute. I'm okay with the faux facade. I know we don't need transparent windows where people can look into a parking garage, especially at street level, especially on a street level that we want to have, big events, right? You don't want to, that's not something you want to actually display. But overall, I do think I'm very grateful for some of the tweaks that you guys made in response to some of the comments that have been made over the past month. And that shows some, as Commissioner Hamilton said, good faith. So I appreciate that. I don't have any other comments other than that. And at this time, I will ask if there's any public wishing to speak, please line up.
May I say one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, first of all, the increase in parking spaces is going to have nothing to do with the traffic flow around the buildings. Okay?
Well,
There's still going to be increased traffic.
but I'm talking about the what I said was the parking spots that the public mentioned near the VFW. I'm talking about on a VFW event where you have parking everywhere along that corner and for the ball games. Those aren't going to be impacted. Those aren't going to be impacted because they're putting all that internally. So those people are still going to be parking on the sides there.
But I'm talking about traffic, I'm not talking about parking.
Go ahead, but
I'm just saying the traffic around there is going to be increased by all the people that live there.
right. But those roads aren't designed for full capacity right now. I live there. I live out there.
Well,
It's-
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And,
And I think the report said, there's an increase in traffic, but the residential is fairly small
Yeah.
when you're talking about daily trips. So I think that's where they're saying this is okay to handle residential trips. What would have been a bigger deal is the movie theater, which had 50,000 square feet of commercial in it.
Well,
When that was approved in 2004, that probably would have been, and this was actually somewhat thought of in that capacity. I think that would have been concerning.
I thought that was a joke to begin with, but my,
But they did look at the trips generated based on residential to say, can the streets handle that? And I think because there isn't a lot of commercial here, that's why they're looking at the roadways saying, this can handle those things.
well, I agree that the streets can probably handle it, but can the residents handle it? You're talking 144 parking places or so. That's gonna mean approximately 144 cars coming in and out all day long.
That's capacity though. Like,
I'm just saying,
understood.
you have to expect that. If you've got those parking spaces, you've got to expect they're gonna be full.
Right. KLOA, they're traffic engineers. They did the study. They say it's okay. And that was prior to the adding of the 4 spaces. That is my understanding correct? Or did they revise it with the additional spaces?
Which For.
KLOA.
For each of them, it was revised.
It was revised,
since
okay,
then.
good, so that is perfect, that's what,
Yeah, it's based on the current plan.
yeah, so,
But did they take into account the impact on the neighboring community?
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, we-
looking at increased traffic on the roadways, so it's,
That doesn't answer my question, Dan. Does it take into, you know, the people that live around there? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people that are gonna live there. We'll get to that in my next comment. But,
sure, it's not taking into account people's individual homes. It's just looking at, can the roads take this traffic on?
well,
the capacity.
I think we need, before we need to worry about the roads, we need to worry about the citizens.
Thank you.
That's my concern, and it's, as officials, of any officials at Tinley Park, that should be their concern. Okay? That's that comment. I just lost what I was gonna say next. We'll come back to it.
All right, yeah, you're still on the floor, so you get, with that said, if there's anyone wishing from the public to speak, please approach. I'll swear you in, sign the book, and you can state your name as well. Yes, say your name, sir.
John Pavlik?
John? Okay, John, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
I'd like to thank James for recognizing concerns of us. And I only have two things real quick to say. It's like 126 or whatever, 62, 60. You're dropping a town into a 1 block square area. There's maybe 20 houses up and down for 2 blocks. And now there's gonna be 8 times that many people and cars in that little area, which is already very busy, as you can ask anyone that lives there can attest to. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I heard a gentleman, I wasn't at the first meeting, but he said he wanted to keep an urban landscape, up, no lawns or anything. This is not an urban landscape. This is Tinley Park, I'm sure you all live in Tinley Park. You remember why you moved to Tinley Park? It wasn't to be an urban landscape. It was, this is not Chicago. And, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your time, John. Janet, come on back, yeah.
Okay.
What, do I have to swear in for a different item, Dan? Janet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a
For
different.
protocol,
Yeah.
sure, fair enough. Janet, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, I wasn't at the first meeting unfortunately, so I don't know everything that went down. I have a question that I'd like you to give an evidence to me. How many of you live on the east side of Oak Park Avenue? Do any of you?
I do.
Okay, we live on Forestry Drive. When school is letting out, you can't even pull out of our driveway. You have to sit there for 15 minutes because you can't pull out of your driveway. I don't know how you can say, if you see how many cars go speeding down our street, and I mean speeding, people from this central area are not gonna be going to Oak Park Avenue. If they're going to 167th Street, they're going down Elm Lane to 171st Street, cutting through Forest View Drive, going down to Ridgeland, and going to 167th Street. I don't see how your study, if you put things in the roads by people, you would see how much traffic goes down these streets. Or saying, putting this commercial space on the bottom. Boy, that parking lot is full of commuters, aren't they? So many, get the traffic from the commuters coming to those things. Nobody goes downtown anymore. You go to the parking lot, they're completely empty. Are all the businesses on the south side of the street filled? I'm sure there's a zillion empty ones. We're in Tinley Park, we're a suburb. We don't wanna be Naperville, we don't wanna be Orland Park. You guys want Harmony Square? Take Harmony Square out of our neighborhood. Put it by the 80th Avenue train station where you have 4-lane 80th Avenue, 4-lane 183rd. The bowling alley, there were questions, someone brought up concerns about the parking and the traffic. Heck, that's a 4-lane road out in the middle of nowhere. We're talking about the traffic for the car wash. That's pulling onto a 4-lane road with 4-lane traffic. We're a little 2-lane roads that you can't expand unless you take everybody's easement away and make us all 4-lane highways in our neighborhood. I think this needs to be taken into consideration and what the impact you're doing to our schools. We have this subdivision going in by the old Panduit that's being filled with houses and townhomes. Now you have all this. I don't know if any of those pictures of those townhomes look like they're ranches, which would make seniors move in them. So it would all be people with families, or maybe young children or teenagers. So you're gonna be impacting all the schools on our side of this Oak Park Avenue again. Tinley Park High School can only fit 1,200 students. They're over 1,100 students now. I just don't know where the thinking of this is. And I like that 173rd Street. I live in Parkside. I use that street and I want that street still there. I don't understand why people can't cross the street to get to Harmony Square or whatever. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Janet.
Put a road thing on my street.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone.
Could you state your name
Absolutely.
and write it in the book? And I'll swear you in.
Okay, according to this, it was name, address, and signature, and I have my signature and my name. But according to the open public meetings, there's no necessity for me to put an address down there any more than there is for any of you to give me your address, because I don't need it. Okay,
Miss,
but
can
I
you
live-
state your name and I'll swear you in and then
Oh,
we can
I'm
get
so
you on the
sorry.
record officially.
Hi, my name is Karen Stalmack.
Karen, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Please proceed.
Okay. So, according to all of this at West Point Harmony Square, I find a lot of non-conforming zoning ordinances. You want variations? What were there, 10, 12? What is this? Are you in the business of real estate, Tinley Park now? Where's the cement pond? Okay. According to the zonance ordinance that was amended through June of, what was it? Whenever they did the legacy. The general provisions, number 1, for planned unit developments, which you are proposing in both areas. Not less than 5 acres. Middle school is less than 3 acres or a little bit above. A little bit, give or take, how many square feet? The plan will not impede use of surrounding property values. You're putting low income in our area. That's a constitutional right for every individual. But we all moved to Tinley Park. For it to be a park, residential homes, a good standard of living, a good school system. Okay. The proposed development will not impose an undue burden on public facilities and services such as sewer and the water system. So who's paying for that? All the taxpayers. That's TIF money. You know what TIF money is? You know what TIF is, right? Who can explain? Would you please, someone here, explain TIF? Could you explain TIF for me, Dan?
It's too deep to explain in a public
Well,
meeting.
just give it a basic analogy.
It's an increment of the change in property tax when somebody develops it and what the difference is.
Right,
between
right. So
existing
the
and-
government pays for the infrastructure, not the builders, not the developers. In other places, they always pay for that. So if you had a vested interest in that property, and I don't see a vested interest in these apartment rental units. First of all, they're in the wrong place. Put them up on Harlem Avenue, put them on 80th Avenue, there's a lot of land all around. And then you're saying, oh, well, they can't really afford, we have to give them affordable standard living. How are they gonna be able to afford, are you gonna give them a discount at the venues? Entertainment, music? I don't think so. The next one is, and these all came from the provision, page 180 in the zoning section, Roman numeral 7, page 9 and 10, so that everybody knows. Now, the street system serving this, what a PUD, proposed unit development, I call it MUD, multi-unit development, is adequate, must be adequate to carry the traffic that will be imposed upon the streets and driveways of the PUD, MUD, to be adequate and serve future occupants and neighbors and their families. Where are they gonna go? When the development is constructed in stages or phases, Dan, you mentioned that this is only 3 acres the last time I was here, correct? Middle school?
Yeah, I'm not sure I don't have the acreage in front of me right now.
Okay, but how much is it?
I can let you know in a minute. We can look it
Okay,
up.
good. I'll be happy to hear that.
Okay.
If it's done in phases, a sequence of development schedules shall be provided showing the order of construction of each principal functional element, the completion date. We want all these phases. We want to know when they're going to be started and approximately when they're going to be finished. And what's it going to cost? Because this is all in the bylaws of Tinley Park. And I respect, I lived here when it was, what was the historic district? I moved in when it was a historic district, there's a bug. And that was 15 years ago. Then it became the legacy code. A lot of time went into change those laws. Now we have developers that are in real estate that are conning, well, convincing, proposing. Hopefully this is just a proposal. The density there of 62 is absurd. This is the historic district. It's not a desirable neighborhood when you put up, I think the car wash, and what was the other one before that? The car wash and the bowling alley have better materials than you have on this table. But this is basic construction. This is not in any way, shape, or form desirable. Are you ready, Dan?
Yeah, 4.42 acres total. It's about
Middle school is
2.98.
2.9,
And then 4.2 total.
4.2 where?
Sorry, 4.42 total
4 point,
for the total development.
for the total development,
Yeah, 2.98.
okay. And it shouldn't be on anything under 5. There were reasons that they made those laws, right? For the benefit of the residents, for light, air.
do want to point out they're not proposing a PUD here. It's
They're not
actually
proposing what?
a planned unit development. A PUD is not proposed here, it's actually prohibited.
I'm sorry.
They're not proposing a PUD here. So not to discount what you're saying, but the PUD regulations don't apply to this.
What applies to this?
The
What
regu-
zoning regulations applies to this? This is a multi-unit, row house, as someone said, townhouse. They're not single-family dwellings. They're not separate. They're all together.
So a
So
planned
how
unit
can it
development,
not be, how can it not be under that parameter? Tell me what parameter it's under and I'll research that.
it's under the downtown core and the downtown general zoning.
I get all that, I get all that.
Yeah, so
I
a
read
planned
all
unit
that.
development is like a separate, if you were gonna propose your own little zoning district for your development, that's what a PUD is. So we actually, that's
So
prohibited.
none of this applies to any of us. All those ordinances that the legacy put through that amended along with the originals do not apply to Tinley Park residential communities. Are you telling me that?
No. The legacy district applies here. That's what they're proposing this under.
Okay, so a development in that fashion is acceptable. Why are they asking for variations in the zoning? If it's all there, then what are they asking for? I'm giving you the specifics and clarity on each one of these ordinances. And there's a zoning ordinance.
Karen, you asked about, what was the ordinance you mentioned about the traffic? Can you repeat that?
It was under general provisions
7?
for zoning. Okay, the street system under F. Roman numeral 7.
7, yeah.
I don't know if it's on page 8 or 9, but it says the street system serving the unit is adequate to carry the traffic that will be imposed upon the streets and driveways and site of the unit is adequate to serve residents and future occupants.
And so, and the reason I ask this is, Dan, do we have a KLOA representative here?
I don't believe so.
Because from
Would
all,
we?
from all intents and purposes, and this is part of the package, so you can go
Correct.
online.
We don't see that packet
No,
that you have.
But they,
Absolutely, I
no,
respect
that's online. Like, if you come here at the door, they're not gonna print out 284 pages. It's just, we don't wanna kill trees. But with that said, you can reach it online, but I've seen people kinda impugn KLOA, and I think I've heard traffic from this side of the aisle and that side of the aisle, and I just wanna make sure, if there is this something that is, we're trying to discuss about the traffic, they're the engineers, they're licensed professional engineers that do this for a living. At the very most, they could clarify it, but at the very least, it is public record online. You could download and read. None of their conclusions, my understanding was that it could not handle present and future loads. Yet I've heard people make those accusations, but I don't know if those are valid. And I think if you had the engineer, he could, his report is saying it's, so for, section 7, it does meet that according to what they have by a licensed professional engineer stamped in the state of Illinois saying it does. So if you're saying something is different, you and some others are saying something else is different, then maybe we need the professional engineer to say once and for all. But if he's putting his stamp on that, he's saying it will. So that one is not something that I would, on your list, I would take that off unless you know for sure that there's another professional engineer licensed in the state of Illinois who did a traffic study and said, this cannot handle it. Because what the information I have, the evidence I have right now, says it does. And I would have loved to have KLOA here because I'm not their mouthpiece. I'm just, part of the.
I respect that.
Yeah, so.
Go ahead, I didn't mean.
No,
Finish.
so that's the gist of that. So, go ahead, Jim.
Again, we're comparing the traffic study to the surrounding neighbors. The traffic study doesn't take into account the effect that traffic's gonna have on the neighborhood. It's only talking about the roadway.
No, I disagree. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Illinois and Indiana. And so some of my projects, I have to actually deal with other engineers that do traffic studies. When they have new roads and what, they look for the future volume of roads. So these traffic study isn't just looking at the traffic counts now. They'll put some sort of multiplier for, like they mentioned, there's gonna be 248, I believe, parking. They're gonna put some sort of multiplier to account for that. They're not looking at what the traffic is now. That's why I think there's a big misunderstanding here. And I think KLOA, since they did the calculations, they did the analysis, they can clarify that. I know some people won't go through the weeds and read. Karen, you obviously read through stuff. I commend you on that. But I think, you know, one sentence or two from a representative could clarify and calm some questions. You know, I'm just saying for the spirit of openness and communication, right?
We have kids walking around, we're an older neighborhood, we have a lot of elders that walk, that's our exercise. And we don't wanna have to stop every 3 feet for another car. It's not been that way. Tinley Park wasn't designed for that. Okay, are zoning variations always granted by local governments? A city or county may grant a variance, and there were what, 10, 12? I'm sorry, I can't be exact. May not grant a variance that would permit the use that is not otherwise allowed in that zone. How many 5-story buildings do we have in that subdivision of, I think it's called Bearhart, B-E-I-H-A-R-D-T? How many 5-story buildings do we have there? None. You're starting a precedence. We are not other communities. We're unique. We're not Orland Park. I just saw they put out $30 million for something on the 97, and there will be 0 residential in their downtown. It will be all offices and commercial, and that's good. These are hard-working people that pay taxes. Do you know, I heard, I don't have my iPhone with me, that there was a subdivision by West Point put in Elgin. And the people there said, if you knock on our door, we will tell you, the windows are bad, the screens are bad, the doors are bad, it's just low quality materials. Do we wanna be known for that? I don't. Do any of you? I don't think so. Do any of you? No. No. So I'm saying this needs a bit more work. Just because Dan said, well, it's a legacy plan. Dan, I give you a lot of respect for saying that. But isn't it what the voters want? The people that are paying the taxes? That's why we're having this public forum, correct?
It's your time
You
to
live
speak.
there.
That's why it's
our right.
open, so that's why we're listening.
The Village of Tinley Park bought middle school in 2005 for $1 from the school district. How many times have they had plans for this? I doubt that any of them were 4 or 5 stories high with substandard materials. I doubt it. I don't think it would pass. You guys are getting into the reserve and the, what's the other, boulevard. You're stepping over too many toes. I believe that this property is over by the, North Street, is sold to these developers, Main Street, and you own it, right? You bought it from the village May 16th? Were you there May 16th at the village board meeting?
I don't know what you're talking
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
about. I don't know what you're talking about.
You
I
don't
wasn't- I
know
wasn't
about the
there.
Tinley Park Village Board meeting and selling property in Main Street?
I wasn't there.
And Main Street on the internet is the same address as this West Point. So, have you put any of these up in your neighborhood? Arlington Heights, is that where it is? We'd like to see what you have done in your neighborhood and what you've done that people love. We wanna hear that people love Tinley Park for what they're developing. We don't wanna hear that people, ooh, what are they doing? Row houses. They're not townhouses. Those ones up on Oak Park Avenue are townhouses. They have a single door. You go in, you come out, go out the back door, fire reasons, all kinds of reasons. I can see a fire there. I can foresee damage, and the village is gonna pay for it. Just like you paid for the, what was it, the reserve.
Karen, I'm just gonna ask you just to, instead of speculating, if there's some evidence or concrete, you bring up some points that are good. Let's try to keep focus and not speculate about fires and other things. And just keep on point.
Okay. I personally don't think you should give the farm away, and I'm sure it was a farm before it was a middle school. They've had it since 2005. That's prime property that could be very desirable. You don't need it. You've got North Street. You've got all the others. Have you told me that you were gonna tell me the phases of paying for things? And I think I saw on there, the last date was 2041. Come on, and why our side first? Why? Tell me why middle school first. Why wouldn't you, we've been talking about Harmony Square for years. You said 20, Dan, can I ask you?
I mean,
How
you
old
can
were
direct
you
your question to the
20 years
commission.
ago? How old were you 20 years ago?
You can answer, or you can direct your questions to the commission, or if you have a question for the petitioner, they can always answer it.
Okay, I can't ask you anymore? Are you like Amy Conley? You can't answer the question?
Karen, let's,
Presented it.
it's just personal information.
It's
His
not- it's not
age,
to be
it's not
offensive.
relevant, but
I know
please ask
he's
your
not-
question.
He had to be about 10.
But you will, Karen, you at least will
don't
agree
know
this.
20 years ago.
Things changed. There was gonna be a roundabout at 183rd and
I
Oak
think
Park,
there should
and
be
that
a
went away.
roundabout.
That went away, but what I'm saying is, what was planned yesterday is not always what's gonna be built tomorrow. So to have a healthy respect for that, things changed. You know, the officials change, funding changes, the people who wanna develop go belly up or move on. So the thing is, what happened in the past is not particularly relevant to what we can do in the present to affect the future positively.
Let's make some more amendments. Two townhouses, 2 condos were revised and eliminated. Who can answer that?
It was 3 townhomes, I believe.
3 units.
How many square feet per townhome?
It's probably around 2,400, I would imagine, but I don't know.
100?
No, I have to look it up.
Okay.
The developers should know.
You can ask, part of
Could I
what
ask
the
the
public.
developers what square footage the amendments eliminated per parking space?
Don't understand your question.
Did you make some amendments to the original proposal that we
We
were here?
revised our plan.
Okay, it's a revision, I'm sorry. So your revision, how many square feet was eliminated?
Square feet of,
Townhomes.
Apartments?
nothing, no apartment was changed.
She meant the townhomes where 3 units,
We changed
63 went to
reduced
60.
Yeah, we reduced 3 units.
So she wanted to know what was that square footage from those 3 that was
Thank you.
lost. I'm assuming it's around 2,400, 800 square.
Somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
Okay,
Each.
this is so
Yeah.
evasive.
Each.
Are
E-
there 2,400 apiece times
There's,
62?
we have 4 different floor plans we're going to do, depending on which ones we choose to put there. So they're
Correct.
anywhere with, they'd be anywhere from, call with, gross square footage, 2,000 to probably 2,500, depending which one, the ones we did each.
I can quote you on that when it's done.
Gross square footage.
How much?
Yes, the gross square footage.
Living space.
Living space, No, living space will be
1,500 to 1,800 square feet.
of living space.
By the way, the 1,200 is the minimum, we're exceeding the minimum.
You're exceeding the minimum?
Requirements.
And under the DG zone.
Where are these requirements written?
The legacy code.
Okay. Well, I'm conformed myself to both codes. And I would like to see that the historic district is maintained and no one gets hurt. Children, pedestrians, elderly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time, Karen. Okay,
One more comment, going back about the traffic,
okay.
okay.
You're sworn in, Janet, so,
Right.
and somebody just got up too, so
Oh,
just in the sake of,
I'll be real quick.
yep, sure.
Because when he said about the study being done, it was saying that those cars could fit on the street, right? Whatever study that parking.
It was
the road
just a
thing
traffic
did,
analysis.
It was just those things on the street. But it doesn't account for those cars going through our neighborhood. And like I said, where I live, it is the cut through now. So what are we gonna have, bumper to bumper?
No, I do, I believe it does. When we have traffic studies, they look at like a portal. You're coming in and then you're leaving. So, they're gonna take traffic counts and then they're gonna apply some factors. This is why supposition is not good for anybody's time right now. It would be good for a clarification from KLOA. If they do,
Just to find out how.
they don't look
it
at tunnel vision of just our parking and it's in an island and it doesn't affect anybody because they'd be out of a job. Nobody would hire them
And
again.
then going back to the VFW, just putting those few parking spots along the edges of the perimeter is not gonna help the VFW.
I know when they have spaghetti night and some other functions, that thing is gridlocked. I know some of the kind residents right across the way allow them to park in their driveways.
But
Yep.
more traffic is now, because you're not having 173rd Street open, more traffic is gonna come between the VFW and that Orange People's House on the corner that's across from it. So now all that traffic is gonna be coming in that road, because you're taking one of the roads away that people might have used.
As I mentioned, Janet, like, I understand it's gonna shift to either that road by the VFW or people are gonna take a left by that stop sign and go around the train station. But I know sometimes people don't do that because there's a stoplight. I don't do that every day because there's a stoplight. I go through 173rd. But with that said, KLOA, there's no way they didn't take into account that they're losing a
Well,
road.
they should have
So,
put down
but what I'm saying is that, can I just want to do a straw poll? Anybody in the audience, raise your hand if you read cover to cover the traffic report from KLOA. Okay, cover to cover. Two of you guys read it cover to cover?
From the packet, you mean, right?
From the one that was posted online with the revisions today. It is,
For today's
it's the packet today, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, do they say explicitly that they're not accounting for the surrounding traffic? Because that to me doesn't make any sense with a traffic study to begin with. They're looking at the traffic, they're not just looking, will the parking fit something? So, and I'm a professional engineer, but I would say you default to the transportation professional engineer who stamped that report. And that's his career. So, because for some reason, it seems like there's a lot of either unclarity, for lack of a better word, on what it was stated. My understanding is they said it's good. There has been some concerns that came up and people said, did you take care of A, B, and C? And so perhaps it's better to hear directly from the horse's mouth somewhere in this discussion. You know, they're not here today, but
And anyone who drives down Oak Park Avenue, like say you're headed toward Coles, okay, and you get stuck by a train, you could be
yeah.
to the restaurant down the street, the breakfast restaurant, how bad that traffic is. So that's why I don't understand how they say these roads, when you're only one lane each way in all these streets, that's enough. And like my street is the main cut through for the Parkside subdivision. So I know all these people who don't wanna be on Oak Park Avenue waiting for the light on 171st and 167th are all gonna cut through this neighborhood. And I don't think that is a fair burden on us who live in that neighborhood. Or the value of the homes, like I know someone who, by the VFW hall, just spent how much money redoing their home to make this beautiful home, and now they're gonna be kitty corner to this thing? I think what you're doing to the property values in our homes is horrible. They're bad because we're on this side of Oak Park Avenue to begin with. And now you're putting them way down the toilet by putting something that people aren't gonna wanna live by. And if I was right around these buildings, which I'm not, I'm on the other side of the park, but I wouldn't wanna have a backyard that somebody's 5 stories up and able to look in my yard while I'm in my yard.
But, okay, thanks, Janet.
Sidewalks by either.
I'm sorry, what?
Sidewalk.
Yeah.
Be a rental or even more.
Okay. And if you could state your name after you're done writing.
My name is Jessica Frame. I wasn't at the first meeting, I did watch it online. I'm really opposed to a lot of things that I'm hearing. I guess we'll start with the traffic, since it's such a hot topic. I know you keep referring to this KLOA and a traffic.
Oh, I'm sorry,
study.
Jessica, I apologize. I didn't swear you in. I'm not trying to slow you down here, but Jessica, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're on official record. Go ahead.
Okay, so I know you keep referring to KLOA and this traffic study. Most everyone in the audience lives directly on the block. So if anyone has anything to say about the traffic, I do believe that it would be the residents who live on the block versus somebody who comes out to take a snapshot study.
I live a block away from that. I walk that area every
I
day.
personally live on 67th Avenue or 67th Court.
I'm 66th Court.
Okay, well, I currently live very close to right next to the park, the ball fields, all of it.
Right.
I come down on a Saturday morning and try to pull out of my driveway. The traffic that parks on our side of the street already cuts the street in half. So when 2 cars are going, it's already a mess. I don't know how you can sit here and say that it's not going to affect the neighborhood traffic. That's completely ridiculous.
No. Hold on one second, Jessica. The thing is, and you're right, like especially like car night, you'll have, especially that, the one by the VFW, you have double lanes, so you have to wait for one person and one person. That's not gonna change. That's gonna stay the same.
Now add 66
That is
more
gonna stay the same.
families and have a
I'm not saying that that's ideal, but it's
not
gonna stay the
ideal,
same.
And it's directly gonna affect the residents who live there. Your block is not changing. You can still get into your driveway just fine. Other people will not. We will be affected by this. I didn't, and I wouldn't have purchased my home if this was in the process of being built before. I would not have. I bought in the historic district exactly for what Karen said. This is the historic district. I could have bought anywhere in Tinley Park. I love downtown. This directly, to me, takes away from downtown. It just does. Someone had mentioned that part of this redevelopment was for, to keep it involved for commuters and the vision. Downtown Tinley Park is family oriented. The downtown train station is not popping like you want it to be. I'm sorry, it's just not. All the events that we have, the block party, the parades, all the VFW nights, it's not just spaghetti night. That current lot gets utilized for parking all the time. And I see that they have added 249 parking spots for the residents of that community. Not a single accommodation for the direct area. You wanna be putting in all these other things. Every event you have, where's everyone gonna park? I'm sorry, that little train station parking lot is not the end all be all for every parking. It just can't be. That lot is used a lot, and this is taking away from everything. You're providing to the people who are coming in, and you're taking away from the people who currently live there.
Quality of life.
I also wanted to find out about the schools. Has anyone done any kind of study about that other neighborhood by the Pan do it, and now this one, can the schools handle it? I know we had a rezone not that long ago. Oh, also, I know that there's a big push to have, commercial on the first floor. I just don't really understand that vision when across from the train station is commercial, it's still vacant. There's plenty of places on actual Old Park that are vacant. I just think that this to Harmony Square, if it's gonna be this close to Harmony Square and you want it to be big and beautiful, this isn't the way to do it. I really just don't. I'm pretty sure that's about it. Oh, I did wanna add though that taking it from 63 to 60, it's kind of like an insult. Why even? 3 doesn't really make that much of a difference, so that's it.
All right, thank you, Jessica.
Can I make one comment?
Please approach.
My name is John Stallmack. I was a practicing attorney for
I'm going to swear you in, John, and also write your name. I'll give you a chance to write your name on the,
Yeah.
Okay, John, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, you want me to write my name down?
Yes, please, just for public record, yeah.
Okay, fine. Like I said, my name is John Stallmack, and I was a practicing attorney for 43 years in civil litigation. I have put experts on the stand, maybe close to 1,000, cross-examined experts. I did medical malpractice, and this is all, you can just check this on the website. I did products liability, I did construction litigation, I did all that. This report you're seeing is nothing more than an opinion by these professional engineers. But we are giving you facts. We are telling you what's going on there. Are they gonna, in their report, break all this down so that their conclusion or opinion is gonna reflect all those facts that people have personal knowledge about?
I live there. I have personal knowledge about it. You don't know, you don't know. You're assuming what the future traffic's gonna be. They did a study where they use engineering, their engineering profession to calculate in that. You can't tell me right here now, you know what that volume's gonna be. You don't.
What are they doing? They're making suppositions based on their own opinion that this will be the case.
Oh, I
We're
disagree.
doing-
I disagree. Engineers get information to make conclusions. They don't just opine. This isn't like they're writing Canterbury Tales. They take data. That's why I do think, because this is at a crux, a lot of people have brought this up, people on this side have brought it up, I do think I'm not that person's mouthpiece. I think you do need somebody from KLOA to respond to these, because I think there is a lot of supposition. I think there's a lot of non-clear things that he or one of the representatives can make clear on what their study is. But saying, I walk down there all the time. I see some of the issues by the VFW. That's parking issues, right? And on big days, you got one by one going in. But if they have their stuff in their complex where they have 4 and they have enough for their vehicles, that's not gonna change the issues with the parking there, which causes some of that constriction. But again, I have some of that personal knowledge too. But I'm not the engineer, and I am an engineer. I'm not the engineer who stamped it. So I understand that as a lawyer, you're gonna bring another traffic study engineer, and he'll say something
Exactly.
right?
Because
But
there's always two sides
Yeah.
to an issue.
Well, I'm saying-
You're basing it on just one report that you guys have done. Did you go out and seek a couple of reports to see that this report was within standard?
Is that a reasonable ask? I'm an engineer. I'm a geotech engineer and an environmental engineer. I never have somebody go, we need 5 other environmental engineering reports to corroborate the one, because it's not cost effective,
Okay.
right? So unless this guy has tons of lawsuits against him, I wouldn't opine that it's wrong. I would, right? True?
No. When you go to court, you bring a malpractice case. You have a doctor saying, if you're the injured party,
that that doctor on trial committed malpractice. Does that make it automatically true? No, because the defense will come on and say, wait a minute, he didn't commit, or she didn't commit malpractice. This expert's wrong.
John,
Experts.
I'm gonna just reel you in, because my wife's a lawyer, and I've, as a professional engineer, for the plaintiff, I've been an expert witness. So you know what? I understand the process, but it's not really salient to this. We're bringing it up, this isn't a court of law. This is something where you can bring evidence. Do you have evidence? Not supposition. You're not a licensed transportation engineer registered in the state of Illinois, right?
I am not.
So therefore, you are not qualified to speak whether that's right or wrong. True? True. True?
Yes, I am. I can question.
Wait, you can question, but you can question, but you're saying it is not right. I'm telling you, I don't know. He'd be good to have
I'm
here,
not.
be
I'm
here.
just saying, you're basing your position on just one report.
No,
We're saying, we got all these people, we live there.
I live there. I live
All
there.
right, and it's facts within our personal knowledge that can contravene this report. And there could be another report to saying, wait a minute, this is an error, that's an error. I don't know. I did not read the report, but I'm just saying, just because you say something stamped and you want to give it an imprimatur of, of fact, it's not true. It's the opinion of that engineer saying what he or she believes, all right? And any opinion can be contradicted. Believe me, I just spent 43 years doing it. I know.
Understood. I know how, as I mentioned, I know how lawyers work. They play sides. I get it. But
John Marshall, UIC, I know what expert testimony is. It's not conclusive. It's just the opinion. And we're saying, we question it because we're the ones that live there and see all the traffic right now. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, and I said this in my previous comment to the commission. People turn in my driveway, all right, and back up, how many times? And how many times is this gonna multiply once you put this project in, huh? And then, how's that gonna affect other people?
understood. I got you. I don't have a disagreement that when you have more vehicles, you'll have more traffic.
Of course.
But the traffic study is not about, is there going to be more vehicles? We understand by numbers, by just simple math, that's the case. It's about the capacity of the roadway to handle the traffic. Again, that's something I would defer to them. I'm not going to make big allegations sweeping one way or the other.
And neither am I,
But I
I'm just
understand,
saying.
I understand where you're coming from. I understand how the court of law works and what people typically think of the law system. They're not really too keen on that, right? Some people.
Well, you have been an expert, you say. You
Yeah.
have
Oh.
been cross-examined.
Oh, of course.
You know
Yeah.
that no report is infallible.
Fair enough. Okay,
Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry, I have a long last name.
no problem. Okay, could you state your name and I'll swear you in?
David Brickman.
David, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
My name is David Brickman. Like I said, I live at the corner of 173rd and 67th Avenue. Historic home in Tinley Park. Been there for over 25 years. Question about public access to the development. Is there a public sidewalk that goes anywhere east-west close to 173rd? All that land was vacated, so I don't think any of it's public.
East-west on 173rd. I'm looking at the map
Yeah.
here. I mean, if you're talking about by the Durbins there?
Well, from the corner of 173rd and 67th Avenue, is there anything that goes east-west public-wise?
There's 67th Avenue. Oh, here. They're making that a one-way, that their plans are to make that
If I
a
were to walk from my house at 173rd and 67th Avenue, how do I get to Durbin's?
So then, there, I believe, because you're testing my eyesight here. Isn't that a sidewalk?
All that was vacated, all the other properties were called private, so I don't know. That's
well,
fine.
you're talking about the plan that's shown up here.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
can the petitioner at least comment? He's asking, if he was trying to go to Durbin's,
That's
There's a sidewalk.
That's a public sidewalk maintained by the village,
No, it's,
so it's not a public sidewalk.
no, it's a sidewalk. We have to maintain it.
Okay, so I'll have to go through private property to get from my house to Durbin's. Is that correct?
You
Fair
don't-
enough, as long
there's
as-
streets around it. I mean, you
Yeah, I
can,
could.
if you want to stay a
walk-
public walk,
I could
you
walk
can-
south and,
yeah.
Yeah, you can either
I'm
walk.
way too old to sneak through private property.
I didn't see anywhere in the report that they're gonna restrict public from walking on those sidewalks.
Restricted
Can you
to dog
clarify?
park?
Yeah, no.
No, so
It's
if you're
restricted on
not,
the
if you're
dog
not
park.
restricted, right,
Okay, all right.
on those sidewalks, I don't know about the dog park, sir.
Yeah, that's what I was questioning, is a lot of
Yeah.
other areas were said private and no public use to it.
If I could, and not to interrupt you, I apologize for interrupting you.
Just looking for clarification.
So either the village, the park, either the village would own it, maintain it, or the park district would own and maintain it, or if they don't, as we've had down at West Point Meadows, they're private parks, pocket parks we have in there, and the development owns and maintains it. So they're not a village park, they're not a park district park, they're the development park.
Okay,
We don't have that park anymore, the one park we have.
yeah, so it's a moot point now, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the notation on it, not that we were implying, we weren't saying the village had to maintain the park. We weren't expecting the village to maintain the park or the park district to maintain the park.
Fair enough. It's a moot point now,
It
it's
is.
passed on, but
The
David,
dog park is still private, though.
Dog park, yeah, we're gonna let the residents decide what they want.
The residents of the new development or residents?
New development.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Real
continue.
quick, I was here at the last meeting, so there were three things that kind of stuck out as far as follow-ups from my perspective. Parking and traffic, we talked a lot about traffic. And I did look up the traffic report, and the purpose of this memorandum from KLOA was to summarize an existing roadway conditions, estimate the volume of traffic that will be generated, and access systems, and examine the impact of vacating 173rd Street. And the study was treated as, excuse me, the development would be a transit-oriented development, which I think lowers the traffic in and outs for the development. I'd be curious to know what would happen.
They said it is a transit?
It is a transit-oriented development.
That means to me that you're moving from one place to the other. That's not
This
like,
means it's near the train station.
oh, fair enough, okay.
Transit, not transit.
So they think they're gonna be, no, I know it wasn't transit.
That's what
The,
that is about.
okay, fair enough. It was just, they're gonna walk to the train, go
Yeah.
downtown. Fair enough.
So there's
Yeah.
less traffic because of that, or less
You'd have,
in and
yeah,
outs?
you'd have to talk there,
So I would recommend or ask the village to go back to them and say, can you redo the study of it as if it wasn't a transit-oriented development?
or just have them clarify what were the variables they considered. Because I doubt they're assuming 100% are commuting to work. So, what's a reasonable threshold? Are they in that threshold? Are they above that? So I don't know if they have to hit the drawing board, but I think there's needs to be some clarifications.
And as well as it doesn't say anything with the impact on Oak Park Avenue, so I would like to know what that impact about Oak Park Avenue would be, not just the surrounding streets, or the surrounding streets of the development. So that was that. Then on the new revised layout, I know we had additional parking. Was there any additional public parking with the revised layout compared to the old layout?
They were shaking their head, no.
That was one of the concerns at the first meeting as well, is that, as people said, the VFW,
Right.
the ballparks all cause parking on the streets. And on the Central Middle School site, that parking from Central Middle School site will now be on the streets.
Right.
So it's not just traffic, it is parking as well that will cause problems in the area.
I know they have, and I know Commissioner Trexel brought it up in one of the meetings. My understanding is there's an auxiliary lot, per the staff's report. However, I believe that was stated to be only used for main events versus local events. But I don't know if you want elderly or kids
No,
crossing Oak Park
I was
anyhow,
gonna say, the
so.
VFW veterans crossing
No.
Norfolk Avenue from the north, or the,
Right. Yeah.
street there, so parking will still be an issue, if it become even worse. And then the second thing we talked about last meeting was the density. And the current density at the proposed 60 units at 3 acres is 20 units per acre. For reference, a couple of the more recent developments that have been approved, the Oak Park Avenue at 178th, 31 units at 2.631 acres, so 11.8 units per acre. Oak Ridge, the old Panduit, 162 units, 9.7 acres, 16.7 units per acre. Compared to Oak Park Avenue, Central Middle School site is 70% more dense. And those two recent developments on Oak Park and Oak Ridge exit onto much larger streets. Last, well, again, the form, a little bit like density, it is the most visible area. This is going to be a focal area for the community. All previous, and I go back to 25 years, to even before Central Middle School was torn down, I was speaking with the village about what was going on, and every development since then had the townhomes facing the streets with a park, green space in the middle. This deviates from that in every development I've seen proposed over the last 25 years. I think we can do better. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Dave. Is there anybody else from the audience wishing to speak? What is your name, sir?
Brian Meyer.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Okay. I have a little, I don't know if anybody else wants construction in here. Okay, I'm a 130 plumber. And I've been living in Oak Park on and off since 1986. I actually watched the lumberyard burn down, which is now the north parking lot. I also did plumbing on the 3-story that now has like the eye care facility in it and all that right on Oak Park Ave. I did the gas pipe in there and various other things, Odyssey Country Club and all of them. Currently, I'm working downtown on a building. It pays the bills. It kind of fits the area. I'm working on the 74-story that you see on Channel 7 News when they do the screenshot off the tower. Anyways, a 5-story in that area, and if I saw the picture right, 3-story townhouses. My knowledge of the city, how it's built, those are very narrow, and that's why they're 3 stories tall, cramming them in there. And 3-story townhouses, you ever try to walk up a 3-story townhouse? It's pain in the butt going from first floor to ground to the second floor, let alone, oh great, now I gotta go up another flight of stairs. And a 5-story, I live right across from the station. I cut the grass. I like to keep the area looking really nice in my little neck of the woods. That boulevard, in my opinion, is an eyesore. A lot of other people think it's an eyesore, and it's only half done. Plus the 7-story parking garage that's supposed to go on there. 5 stories, doesn't fit the area. 3 stories, fits the area for your multi-unit. 2-story townhouses, when somebody thinks of a townhouse, you don't think of a Chicago brownstone from the 1940s. That's why they're 3-story tall, because they're narrow. They're trying to cram this. I get what you guys are trying to do. You're trying to get the most bang for your buck out of the property. It doesn't fit the area. That's just my opinion. Unfortunately, for everybody else here, I live on the other side of the track, so the traffic's really not gonna affect me, except for You know, all these other ones where they detour Oak Park Avenue goes right past my house. It is what it is. I live with it. You live over by me.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. But my thing is, let's try to keep the buildings a little bit shorter. I mean, look at Orland. Look what they did over there. I mean, it's an eyesore, that monstrosity of University of Chicago's over there. It just sticks above everything. This project, in my opinion, if you guys wanna stick with the original plan, good spot for, the Tinley Park Mental Hospital, where, since you guys only have part of that planned out, it'd be perfect for over there. Yeah.
You betcha.
Okay, Brian.
Hello, my name is Chuck Petronico.
Okay, Chuck. Just sign in and then I'll swear you in. Okay, Chuck, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole
do.
truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please proceed.
I live right across the street from the VFW, and today I was looking across the street at the field where you guys are talking about doing your project, and all the trees are changing all their colors. Now, I redid the house across the street, and when I did it, Tinley Park had a pretty big rule on the green space. I can only go so far with the house to make sure there's enough green space. That whole field's green. Is it gonna still be green after all these townhomes go in there? Isn't there supposed to be enough green space for everything? There's birds that fly through there, and now it's just gonna be another community with nothing. Is that right? Isn't there supposed to be a certain amount of green space for each spot?
I will let staff comment on that, but originally they had more green space, but to accommodate the parking, they did put in 4
Yeah.
spots, so.
There's no requirements on this
There's
property.
no requirement for green space, but yet across the street, there was for me?
And I actually remember when you guys built that, and
Yeah,
I see you
that
guys
was
out
fun.
all the time with the bean bags and stuff.
Yeah.
The dog, I know
Yeah.
you guys love your home.
Exactly.
I understand
And I came
it.
in there and I did a lot to that house.
You did, and I can tell you take a pride in it.
And do you think that this is gonna make my house any better or worse? Seriously, and the question is, are the townhomes, are they rentals, or could you buy them? Could you rent, do you buy them or rent
This
them?
isn't my proposal.
Well, I'd like to know that, it's across the street from my house, if they're gonna be rentals or single-family homes, basically, or considered townhomes, are they rentals?
This isn't my proposal. I'm just stating.
So I don't get to know if I'm gonna be living across from a bunch of rentals? I put a couple $100,000 into my home, and now I got rentals across the street that I can't even get a clear answer?
If you're asking me, you can direct your questions to the commission, to the petitioner.
I personally do not know. I would say, I would ask, I would default to the development team, but I don't have that personal knowledge, sir.
But isn't it also true that the Fair Housing Act says that we can't make a determination based on whether or not it's rental or owned, and that category could change? And any consideration of that is illegal for us to discuss or respond to.
All right, so what's gonna be the rent? You know, what happens if somebody wants to come in and rent? Do we have any type of, like, dollar figures or anything on this?
I'm not looking at it from a standpoint of being the landlord or owner, but Commissioner Merrick does ring true, so that's what he's saying, is the law.
Local governments can't regulate ownership on these, so we can't say something's like you could rent your home tomorrow. So, local governments can't really regulate like ownership of properties. We also can't regulate rent. There's no rent control, so.
There's no rent, so in other words, they're rentals.
No, it's illegal.
I'm just saying, the questions you're asking can't go into this public hearing with, it's not relevant to anything they're requesting.
Okay.
And we can't regulate that.
All right, well,
I understand
be
your.
something I'd like to know.
I understand the
because,
curiosity. I don't know, and as Commissioner Merrick said, it would be it would be illegal to even take anything like that in consideration, so. we-
For us to take it into consideration.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
for us, yeah.
He-
I understand
he
your
certainly ask the
healthy
question.
speculation or curiosity, I understand that.
And that, just to clarify, that, is this getting funded through TIF?
There's a development agreement on the property. I'm not sure what that.
So
I don't know.
TIF, this is not TIF funded?
I don't know the
You don't
details of
know?
the development agreement.
Who would know that if it's TIF funded? Isn't,
I don't know if this
shouldn't
is
shouldn't us, the people that live in the neighborhood, know if it's, how it's getting funded?
That's related to the development agreement on this, which I don't have the details of, because it's not part of the request today.
Okay, well, that's all I got, and obviously none of the questions got answered, but.
Well, thank you for your thoughts, Chuck.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Sarah Nolan.
Okay, sir, if you just write your name in, then I will swear you in.
Okay,
Okay, Sarah, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
Go ahead.
okay. I've lived in our house for 51 years in November. Raised 4 kids. I already talked to the committee. We're all here together for one reason. We live in an older neighborhood. When you look up at that map, there's 16 buildings gonna be put in 2.9 acres. I've walked that rectangle almost every night this summer and saying, how are they gonna fit them in? I know they will, but they will be crowded in there. On 67th Avenue are all older homes, maybe over 100 years old, some of those homes. On 67th Court are beautiful 2-story townhomes. Now, we all knew something was gonna come to this area. We knew it was gonna come sooner or later, but we never thought 5-story building, 3-story, 16 3-story buildings, that's too many people crowded together. Now, you gotta look at that yourself. You have to think about that. I invited them to come to walk the rectangle this summer, to look and see, how are they gonna put them in there? I know they will, because they have a way of doing it. But it's people on top of people. This is an older neighborhood that we bought into it. We knew what we were buying into. And I'm not against progress, but this is just too crowded for this one area. So you have to examine your consciences and think about us who have been living there all this time. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hi.
My name is Jack Coyle.
Jack, okay. Just sign in, Jack, and then I'll swear you in. Okay, Jack, do you affirm or swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I have one more of a question than a comment. I think the council container, I agree with as far as density and traffic. I'm just repeating what they've already said.
Mhm.
I do have a question about the plan itself as far as the timing. So, you know, they just announced this year that Harmony Square was gonna be developed, and all of a sudden immediately we went into the development with the real estate development, or the plaza, sorry, first. I guess the question is, I have for the group here, is what is the order in which this will happen? Because I think we talked last time about having to redo some drainage also in the area. So I'm just wondering, what comes first? Is it the plaza, like the pavilion, like the redoing of T-hands, and then the development here, or how, is it already been defined what the order is? And then what the timetable is?
I don't have the personal knowledge on the staging, on what stage is gonna be happening, what that time frame is from, you know, cradle to grave, so to speak. Dan, do you have any information that could shed light on that?
Yeah, I know the goal is there's a lot of underground work here for both this private development and the plaza that are all kind of interconnected. So that's all kind of gonna be happening while they're working on the plaza, and then they'll be starting the townhomes as well from the north moving south, because that's kind of where the utilities will be ready first. So they're gonna be working on the plaza and that at the same time, and then kind of coming and meeting in the middle.
Does the plaza start first?
I don't know exactly which one's gonna start digging first, but roughly the same time in spring.
Next spring? Is that?
Yeah.
Good. But is the planning of the plaza done before the residential is done? Or is it all, is it like, give me all the, like, you know, we have the plaza, the town, yeah, the condo tower. Is it?
I don't have as much details on the plaza and how that's gonna work. There's a lot that goes into construction detail planning that I don't have the details on right now. So
Okay.
I don't know exactly which one's gonna finish first. I know they're just planning to start, do the utilities at the same time, planning to start at the same time. I don't know the exact detail of how exactly things are gonna finish, because you got a lot of utilities, ComEd, burying the overhead lines, things like that that can add time in there.
Okay. I just something to consider, that it seems like there's a lot going on here, maybe like, you know, the plaza's been waiting for so long for the plaza, and also we have the development, the towns and the condo, it seems like that.
And the plaza's moving forward as well, so that'll be.
But that was like kind of the main draw, that was kind of the driver of all this, wasn't it, like that
Well-
for so long?
But to Dan's point, like even in construction, and I think Brian in the back row, you know, at least on earthwork jobs, not necessarily in the city per se, you typically will do all that digging all at once, right? You don't do it, typically won't do that in stages, just because while you got the materials out there, you strip the topsoil, do that all at once. So mobilization's a lot of that cost, but I don't know what the cost is on here. But to Dan's point, though, it sounds like it's gonna start kind of together, at least the infrastructure, right, part.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it's a reasonable ask when, or if, because it may not happen, right? If the timetables and stuff, I think that's a reasonable ask from, you know.
Just to feel knows a lot
Right.
going on over that area, that,
Right.
in a tight space.
Right.
Same-
Well, because they're gonna have to be, yeah, exactly, I agree.
I know the board's goal and direction has been to get the plaza done as quick as we can, so that's where we're working at, is to start in spring, and then hopefully, I believe it's like a year and a half build out, but there's a lot that goes into that, and I don't have like a final time frame of it.
Okay, understood. I want to comment on, gentleman's comment there, who lives on 67th Avenue, about the density per acre, or units per acre. Is there like a measure, like a rule about how dense an area should be, like units per acre?
There's not here.
Okay. But is there, okay, so there's no guidance to say there's too much or too little? I mean, I know you wanna get density in the downtown area, but it seems like, compare this to, again, the Panduit area.
But the one thing about the Panduit, it's, as Commissioner Merrick said, that's zoned differently, and that, remember, that downtown district, and I said, like, I was at these meetings on the side where you guys were, where they were talking about having that core, the downtown core, totally densified. So the one that's off of Forest View Drive by Panduit, that's further away. That's not the downtown. That's a totally different zoning. So you're comparing apples to oranges, even though it's nearby. And I know there was a woman who said she lives out there, and I agree, you know, on you know, there's a lot of developments coming up, but it's kind of going towards that plan of having towards a densified downtown area.
Okay, I just know there's actually kind of parameters about how dense something should be, as far as like, you know, again, house per acre, where, that's all, so.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate your comments, Jack. Thanks. And what is your name?
Tim Moriarty.
Tim? Okay, Tim, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yeah.
Please go ahead.
I honestly thought a lot of good, I came here thinking, oh, this is a really good plan, and I thought a lot of good points were brought up about making variations and stuff. But I still think it's a relatively good plan. I work at Tinley Park High School, and I graduated from Tinley Park High School. In 2015, when I first started there's 1,300 kids, and now there's a little over 1,000, so there is room for more students. And I also like the look of the boulevard. I think it makes Tinley Park downtown distinct. And I think it brings more commercial and businesses downtown too. And like I said, more residency with more kids in schools, so that's all I gotta say, and everyone wants to go home.
Okay, thank you, Tim. With that said, is there anybody else wishing to speak at this time? And what is your name?
Catherine Poplinski.
Catherine? Catherine, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So I know that the parking study people aren't here, but I'm concerned that they did it in the morning time and not during a car show night or a music in the plaza night. You're still gonna be having these wonderful events in the downtown area that bring people in, whereas all the, like, the traffic is gonna be, there's 400, if there's 60 townhomes and 60 people in the single unit, multi-purpose building, if it's only one person per, that's 162 people, you have up to 4 parking spaces per person, that is a lot of people, and where is everyone else gonna park? Not just the residents there, but everyone else who wants to go to Harmony Square, to go to the new, band shell and the ice skating rink and the splash pad. I like that you added more parking for the people that live there, because that'll help the rest of us. But what about the rest of the community that wanna come and use and enjoy what Tinley Park has to offer? I think we're still missing a section, like if we just did the townhomes and not the multi-purpose building, then at least you can put a parking garage there. That would alleviate everybody else in the area that wants to come and do Tinley Park downtown fun. You have the trolley now, you have the tree lighting ceremony. I don't think that the Metro lot is gonna be sufficient parking for that. So I
Fair
guess-
enough, and they do have the overflow by Evans, but I don't know if that's sufficient either, because some of these nights, we got more and more things gaining popularity. And as, to the KLOA traffic study, they're not doing these studies at 3 AM in the morning and going click, right? They typically will try to choose a peak time frame, but again, I'm not their mouthpiece. I would defer to, to them to explain their assumptions for their calculations and their professional opinion, right?
I understand that,
yeah.
just we brought this up at the September 7th meeting. There were still 2 more music in the plaza nights after that. They could have done it during that. If we're looking to break ground in spring of 2024, I guess I'm just nervous that they didn't take any of that into consideration when they said that it was okay. So I guess I just wanted to bring that up, maybe if we could have another one during one of the higher peaked times in the downtown area. That we have such a great community and such a great downtown area. We want people to keep coming, and quite frankly, people aren't if there's not free parking or anywhere to park that's convenient. So I'm worried that the density here is gonna diminish what we have, that we're growing here in Tinley Park. So I just wanted to, I guess, say that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for your time,
I
Catherine.
can say the KLOA report just focused on this development. It didn't look at like our plaza and the village's development. But I know with that, we're looking at, there's going to be an additional satellite parking on the west side of Oak Park Avenue, kind of over by the creek. So
Yeah, I
there's
saw
gonna be some
that.
expansion of parking there to help kind of offset with the plaza and overall development.
And that's
So-
great, it's just like, I think we're thinking about it as one, like, lot one, right? But I think there's more to that, I think it's the whole Harmony Square, I think what we're talking about today, I know we're here for lot one, I understand that, but I think there's more to it than just that we're not thinking through.
And as we come forward, I think the goal is to have an additional parking information more related to the actual plaza itself, because obviously that generates the events that they're doing, that the village is doing, they need to be able to plan for that. So there is a plan to get more information on the parking for that.
Okay.
And Dan, when does comprehensive planning start? Because that may be a function through which to work through some of these bigger issues, right? Because that's the community-based re-envisioning about how to handle parking and those things as opposed to this, which we're tackling tonight, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of, your plug in my comprehensive plan, so I like it, because that's where we're trying to take a step back and go, okay, overall as a village, how does everything fit together? We're going through the selection process now to have a consultant help us, so we're hoping that will get finalized in the next month or two at most. And then we'll be able to go from there. It's normally like a 16-month process, so it'll probably start in the beginning of January, and we look at the village overall and how everything can interconnect.
And if there's a public hearing for that, I think we'd all like to be a part of it, because we want what's best for Tinley Park.
There'll be a lot of public
Okay.
outreach. That's a huge part of what went out, and even our selection of the consultants is how do we do some public outreach? It's not the staff's plan, it's the community's plan. So it's, what does the community want to see? Where are we going overall? We're a mostly built-out community, right? So you can kind of go one of two directions, and it's, again, to feel what's the feedback from the community. So you'll be seeing us out at the events in the plaza and getting feedback there. And again, bigger than just even the downtown overall connection, but also sub areas like the downtown. What do we want to see there? What does the community want to see there? Parking, traffic, roads. So there is a bigger plan that we're trying to accomplish there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
I have one more question.
I think Jessica's coming back up, so.
Sorry, just in comment to the traffic study being only done to the development. We're not concerned about the traffic for the development. We're concerned about the traffic for the surrounding areas, the people who will be affected. Oak Park Avenue, 67th Avenue, all of it, not this section, or 67th Court, I mean, not just this section. 171st, way more will be impacted than this gray section. And that's what we are all trying to highlight. And I just want to say that we all love our neighborhood, we all love our community, we all want people to keep coming downtown, and we want downtown to keep growing, but we want to grow as Tinley, and we want to be heard. And at the end of the day, we just want to feel like our neighborhood is still our neighborhood and not just whatever by some developer coming in. We just want to feel heard. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
My last question is, so is this more or less rubber stamped, or does anything we say and bring forward now matter?
Janet, nothing, in terms of, do I come here with a preconceived notion? I read the staff's report, I listen to what the people say, and if you can make a salient point, and I'm an open mind. I don't have my mind made up when I come here. I listen to the information that is presented, and I make a choice, as does every commissioner on this panel. So with that said, this isn't rubber stamped at all. At all. So that's.
See, because I think as neighbors there, nobody ever asked us what we would like to see go in there. And if you were putting 30 or 36 luxury townhomes that enhanced the beauty of our neighborhood and made it attractive for high-income people to want to be downtown, and not just like, okay, so if they can't sell their townhomes, then just rent them out to anybody and you'll have people in and out of there. That's not what we want in our neighborhood. We want families who are gonna come and stay there. And so if you put things that, like my husband and I, we're at the age we would want a ranch townhome. But not any of those could we do. We can't even do a flight of stairs anymore, let alone 3 flights of stairs. So I just think it wasn't taken into consideration of what the people in the neighborhood maybe would want.
I will say this, though. There might not, I don't, know, obviously, and I walk around, and I see the QR codes in the, historic homes, right? Which is good, right? Neighbors should rally and communicate and present a united front. So that's good, that's healthy. You guys are stakeholders, I understand that. The development team listened from some of those first public hearings, and they tweaked some of their design. Okay, so this isn't something that's rubber stamped. There's no preconceived notions. Nobody's trying to ram it down, any residents' throats per se. So this is why you can speak orderly, we want to hear you, it's easy to listen when it's done calmly, right? And so, I don't know if it was done at the beginning, obviously not, but like during these public hearing meetings, they went in good faith and tweaked some of their design. So, and right now, the two things I hear about that are causing questions, more questionings, is the traffic study and density. I've heard that multiple times with different residences coming up here. And I'm looking at the clock right now, it's 10 o'clock. I don't know if more people are coming up. At this time, I'm wondering if it'd be prudent to continue the public hearing to another meeting and this time invite KLOA to at least calm some of these, assuage some of these questions or concerns. Because there seems to be a little bit of confusion or non-clarity of the report. I mean, I'm just asking right now whether that's salient or not. I mean, we're getting to the bewitching hour here.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you guys are the commission. If you feel like that's information that would affect your decision on what's being requested today, you can
I have to
certainly
say
do that.
overwhelmingly, what I've heard from the people coming up here, I think coming from the horse's mouth can clarify versus me guesstimating what they said or what I know of engineering. I do think that would be helpful to not just the people in the audience, but the people on this side as well. I think that's reasonable to make an informed choice, right? And to quell some of the concerns or at least clarify some of the design considerations.
Mr. Chair, you said that they filed a report, 200 and some pages?
No, the staff report is online. It's about 200 and some odd pages. And it includes the KLOA report.
How big is the COLA report?
I don't know offhand. And I have my phone shut off during the meeting, so.
Will that be available to us to read before you call them?
Yeah,
It's always available.
It's available now online.
Yeah.
If you go to the packet for
That-
this meeting, it's in there.
That's posted for the public to read and review. But at this time, let me just take a straw poll. Like, it's 10 to 10. Who here on the commission would prefer to extend the meeting to the next plan commission?
I wouldn't mind doing that as long as we have guests, so to speak, that can explain.
I guess it is contingent on that, because if they're not here, unless we can get questions sent and they can respond.
Somebody who can
That's fair.
address the density issue. We need that also.
That's a zoning issue.
Yeah, I just heard that as a concern. My biggest thing is, I think the linchpin is that traffic study. I've heard it impugned. And I think you gotta hear from the traffic engineer itself.
Yeah, but I think also for the density, comment, what's a good density number to have a good quality of life for.
That's what I'm talking
We can't
about.
hear you.
That's what I'm talking about.
That number, yeah, varies, but hey,
Density.
where is it good, where's the sweet spot? I think that would work.
Yes.
I'm gonna make a motion, we go ahead and table, or just
Postpone.
reconvene in 2 weeks at the next meeting.
Wait, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Sepasi, seconded by Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor of continuing the public hearing to 2 weeks from now at the Plan Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. So this will be pushed back to the, I don't even know the date offhand. I guess it's early November. So, November 2nd? Okay, well, I appreciate everybody's burning the midnight oil here. Appreciate your comments. So write that down, November 2nd, same time, 7 o'clock here in these chambers. And Dan, if you could please reach out to the KLOA and at least have one representative either here in person or on the phone, something.
Sure,
Please work with them to try to make that happen, so hopefully you can clarify some of these questions.
And the report is online.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah, it's all transparent. You can download it from the village website, yes.
It's part of the packet.
One second, Karen, go ahead.
It's part of the packet for tonight.
Right.
It's not like separate, it's part of tonight's
So if you go
packet.
to the agenda, it'll say like meeting packet, and you select that, and it's in with that packet.
Okay, Karen,
Were we going to address density also at November the 2nd?
I'm sure it'll be brought up, but like, we're getting KLOA. As Dan mentioned, there's no density requirements. Since there's no density requirements, I don't think that was the crux. Those are just the two main points people seem to bring up. So, but the one I know can be clarified with just probably the person who ran the calculations, understands all the assumptions, who is a professional engineer, you know, that has a professional opinion, which means an opinion that actually matters, right? So with that said, on that design, right? I wouldn't ask the doctor to comment on the traffic study, even though he's a professional. It's just, or she, it's just a different type of professional. So, but you as the public are free to bring that up. I think Dan was very clear about the non-density requirements. But there may be people on the commission that feel the same way as you. We'll just have to see. It's to be continued, so.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, thank you.
With that said, we will move on to the good of the order. Staff, do you have anything to present for the good of the order?
I just have that Commissioner Truxell has stepped down, just for work obligations. He's not able to attend anymore, so he had stepped down. There should be an appointment at the next board meeting to fill that vacancy on Plan Commission, but just want to thank him for his time on the commission. He always offered a lot of input, and just want to thank him for volunteering. Besides that, I just want to also point out, just because it's an active one we've gotten questions on, the village purchased the former sports station site recently, and working with the land bank. There's no immediate plan. The goal of the village was really to obtain it so we can get it torn down as quick as possible. It's an eyesore. There's some safety issues, structural issues with it that at this point.
Dan, what was that?
The former sports station. Oh. That's like by Jewel and the car wash.
An Olympic star.
Yeah.
But they're gonna tear it down?
That's the plan.
Okay.
So the village
Guys, if-
board authorized the purchase of it, and we finalized that. The
Alright.
goal is we can get that torn down and that resolved quicker than if it was sitting out in the market, so. just
Guys, if
wanted
you
to
could be
point-
quiet while Dan speaks here.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, fair enough. Last chance, receive comments from the public, if there's any comments submitted by the public, Dan, or people wishing to speak today. Seeing none, we'll move on. Adjourn meeting. May I have a motion to close the
motion.
meeting? Okay, made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Manny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. The meeting is adjourned at 9:57 PM Central Time. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.